Okay, hold on. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Enterprise AI Innovation Summit. I'm so excited to be here. I'm your host, Chris Salem, and today we're going to be talking about how do we drive enterprise growth and performance with AI. We want to also let everybody know, why are you here? Well, you're going to get a lot of practical insights here today, real use cases, and proven frameworks to operationalize AI at scale. You're going to learn how enterprises drive measurable results from AI, understand the governance behind successful AI initiatives, and also explore real-world examples across different industries. And we want to thank, again, Zoolatech, as usual, for bringing this to fruition for all of us. And this is going to be a great summit for any of you out there that are going to be on, whether if you are an enterprise AI or a technology leader like a CTO, CIO, or VP. Perhaps you're a head of AI, data and enterprise architecture, or a digital transformation leader in itself. Well, you are in the right place, and we are so excited here today. One of the things I want to do is just go over some housekeeping items for everyone. We want to make sure that everybody here, to get full advantage out of today's summit, as you hear the speakers, make sure that you come prepared with questions, because the more that you can share and have not only have that answered for yourself, but it's also you're helping out others that will be listening in as well, that also can get value from that. So you're helping out your fellow peer as well. So we encourage everybody to take advantage of that and let us know what's on your mind and how, and many of our great speakers here today can answer those questions for you. So with that being said, I would like to, there will be a public chat here on the platform. So if you have a question, you can put it in the public chat platform, and I will make sure to read that and let the speaker know that we'll be presenting, that they can address that question for you. So with that being said, where is everybody, if anybody that's on right now, where are you calling in from? Where are you listening from? We'd love to see where you're at this point. See where we are around the world. Anybody like to put in the chat, public chat? Somebody says Pakistan. Welcome, Pakistan. Thank you. Let's see if we got anybody else. Okay, I don't see anything else, but I'm sure we have a lot of people, again, all over the world. It's always a pleasure to see people from all different time zones here. And again, we encourage everybody again to make sure that you participate, because that's where you're going to get the most value out of today's session. And I can tell you there's going to be a wealth of information that's going to be shared here. And, as I said, this summit is going to be focused on the structural and strategic foundations required to make AI deliver at scale. So we want to make this a virtual experience. And we're going to bring up now our first speaker. Now, I'm very excited to have this person come up and share. And, we're going to be talking in the first half an hour here on AI for healthcare, hype versus reality. Now, a little bit about the speaker before we start. We're going to be talking with Ram Bulasu. He's the VP of AI Strategy, Innovation, and Data at Elara Caring. And a little bit about Ram. He's an accomplished healthcare technology strategist, innovator, and people leader with 3 decades of successful experience across the healthcare spectrum. He is passionate about leveraging technology to improve patient care and to deliver business success through cutting-edge technologies, including AI, ML, and GenAI. He is a recognized industry leader and a frequent keynote speaker at the healthcare industry conferences focused on applications of AI to improve patient care. And he's a prolific inventor and has multiple healthcare technology and AI models to his name. And without further ado, let's bring up Ram Bulasu to the stage. Is Ram here? Let's see here. Okay, we're just waiting for Ram to come on, everybody. As Ram comes on, I do want to cite that we do have somebody from the Bay Area on. Welcome. Kind of early for you, but welcome, 6 a.m. Glad to see you here. And we're just waiting. Ram is just getting ready to come on in, folks, so just bear with us. All right. Okay, it was there. We go. All right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Ram, we can see you now, and we can hear you. Welcome. I've already gave the introduction for yourself, so I wanted to let you know the stage is yours, and we look forward to your presentation here with everybody here on the summit.
Sure. Can I share my screen?
You sure can.
One more second and I'll be ready. Okay. Are you able to see the screen now, full size? Can you see my screen? Okay. Great. So over the last few years, what we have heard is that AI is going to revolutionize healthcare. But what does it really mean? So there are 3 A's that are required for effective healthcare. Healthcare has to be available. It's got to be accessible. It's got to be affordable, meaning we should have the best available medicines, doctors, surgical instruments, labs, everything that makes healthcare work. It has to be available. You could make the case that in some countries like the US, we have the best healthcare available. The next step is accessibility. Yes, you've got great healthcare. Can people who need it access it? Can a patient get the best surgical technologies, the best medicines, the best injections available to them when they need it? The third is affordability. And can everybody afford the best healthcare they need? So these are the three A's that need to be effective. They've always been a challenge globally. The hype has been that AI has come in here now 3-4 years ago and is going to democratize healthcare for everybody. You can get the best healthcare anytime, anywhere for zero cost or minimal cost. And okay, what kind of examples were there for that type of AI supercharging of healthcare? One of the hypes we have heard for the last couple of years is that healthcare providers will be replaced by AI. Doctors, dentists, nurses, radiologists, they'll all be replaced by AI. Well, sounds fantastic. We've also heard that AI will cure diseases like cancer in 2 years and 3 years. We've also heard that medicine will be very personalized in a couple of years, meaning if you have a particular disease, you'll have a medicine ready for you that's very specific for your type of genetics and DNA. Sounds fantastic. Well, what exactly is the reality? What are we dealing with day to day? So if you look at that, what kind of tools has AI made available for biopharma and for med tech? How advanced are these tools? If you say that we're going to have cancer medication available in 2 years, if you say that robots are going to perform surgeries in 2 years, what's actually happening? The reality is we're very far away from that. In terms of curing cancer and other terminal diseases, what AI is able to do so far is twofold. One is it's able to help speed up clinical trial data management to get clinical trials completed faster, from 2 years down to, say, 1.5 years or 9 months even. Hopefully, if that continues to happen, we'll have a slightly increased 10, 25, 30% faster pace from drug identification to drug approval, so that diseases like cancer could potentially be cured faster, but we're far away from that. The regulatory authorities have certainly interfered in the process and made sure that we put in the right checks and balances for AI tools so that they don't give us the incorrect drug results. One area where we have seen some amount of improvement is companies like Intuitive Surgical that have integrated AI completely into their robotic surgery devices, where if you're in a rural location, hundreds of miles away from a good hospital, a surgeon in New York could potentially perform surgery in, say, Bangalore by manipulating virtually the arms of a robotic surgical device. That's very experimental. That's prone to failure, but that's an area where we're getting some improvement. Okay, does that mean that robots will replace surgeons anytime soon? Not in the next 7 years, not in the next 10 years, most likely not even the next 20 years, for the simple reason that the risk to patients is simply extremely too high. And how many patients are going to be willing to undergo surgery from a mechanical robot? The risk is still very real. So we're in a very early stage of this, extremely early stage, and we're kind of maybe in a couple of years we'll see some good products come out of the robotic space. If you look at patient health, what kind of tools and devices are available to directly support patient health using AI? So the hype was, we're going to have on-demand, cheap, and freely available medicines and devices for all. What kind of devices are we thinking about? Yeah, we have pacemakers, we have hearing aids, we have contact lenses. Okay, those are the basic things. The reality is that the good news is some bio-wearables, like continuous glucose monitors, heart rhythm monitors, blood pressure monitors, they've been introduced, they've been approved. AI is being used to get the data off of those platforms and provide real-time insights. So if you're a diabetic patient, you may say, okay, I just ate a donut and my blood sugar is spiking. Okay, maybe I need insulin. So there is a certain amount of success in the bio-wearable space with minimal and basic effectiveness that have been rolled out in the last maybe 3.5 years. The challenge, however, there is these devices are expensive, they are inconvenient to wear, and they're prone to errors. So now many of these bio-wearables are coming with AI-enabled interpretation of data. At the same time, there are cautions to say the companies that make these devices are not responsible if these devices give you incorrect results. Some patients have already ended up in the hospital because these devices malfunction. There are cybersecurity issues around insulin pumps that have been hacked, and people end up with too much insulin, too little insulin, go into coma, that sort of thing. The reality is we're at the very early stage of biowearables. The CGT area, that has had more hype than any other space, that is cell and gene therapy, incurable cancers, childhood leukemias, genetic diseases. The promise was that personalized medicine, cell and gene therapy will help create very targeted medicines for each individual patient through autologous gene therapy, hopefully someday allogenic gene therapy. Again, those have been extremely minimally ineffective. Patients have died at a high and alarming rate to the point that the Food and Drug Administration has come in and said, you need to stop some of these trials. There's a lot more to be understood about the human DNA before we can actually start making personalized medicines. That's a bit of a challenge. The biggest challenge when we talk about affordability, payers, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, insurance payers, or TRICARE, and other parts of the world, maybe government payers, they're balking at paying for biowearables. They're balking at paying for cell and gene therapies. One, because they're too expensive. Cell and gene therapy can run up to $500,000 a year per patient, which is very expensive, and $500,000. And in some cases, the payers are saying, we just don't trust the effectiveness of this product. So that's kind of where the reality is. AI is helping provide insights and provide protein fold structures and closer pictures of human DNA, but it's nowhere. It's not even in beta version. It's in version 0 right now. You look at how can you optimize caregivers? AI is going to optimize caregivers. What does that mean? Caregivers can be doctors, surgeons, lab techs, therapists. The idea is that where the world over, especially in the US and other parts of the world, we simply don't have enough caregivers available. We don't have enough doctors and nurses and physicians, surgeons, or behavior therapists or psychiatrists available where they are needed. And so the idea was AI is going to make sure we're going to do flawless matching of caregivers to patients. Okay, you got this problem, we got a caregiver for you, ready to go right away. Well, that's never happened. The closest reality in that space is they've got some amount of opportunity to improve schedules, optimize schedules of where caregivers are to where the patients are and match them. Right now, the effectiveness of that across the healthcare spectrum is less than 25%. AI is helping in some settings to make sure that we provide better caregiver optimization in their schedules. But we are far, far away from any kind of flawless on-demand matching. And availability becomes a challenge here because if you're in a rural area and you need an in-person connection with a physician, you're kind of at a loss because you'll have to go to a hospital 200-300 miles away to get the best care. One area there is some positive outcome here is that in behavioral health, there are quite a few apps that have come out on iPhones and Androids that young people, especially teenagers who may be in mental stress, can talk to those apps and they can talk them off a ledge, calm them down, then call protective services or medical services to help them in an emergency. So that's a spot of optimization and positivity we're seeing with AI. Again, there's also too many cases where those apps failed. They gave incorrect direction. And many people in distress are also talking directly to ChatGPT and Gemini 3 and so forth to interact with them as a friend or a human being in the hope that that AI tool can actually help them in their moment of crisis. There have unfortunately been some suicides and things that came out of that. So the schedule optimization, the connection of caregivers on demand to patients, that's got a long way to go, but that's an opportunity area for AI. If you look at, can AI actually manage an entire patient care setting? Can AI actually manage the interaction of how the nurse goes to the patient's home if it's a home-based patient care, or how the nurse handles things in an emergency room, how the doctor performs the surgery, and so on? The idea is that AI will smoothly manage caregiver events, meaning if you have a doctor with 50 patients to see, AI will so smoothly manage everything so that if I'm a doctor and I show up in an emergency room, everything about the patient that I need to know is right away on my tablet or iPhone. I can look at it immediately, deliver care to the best of my ability. Well, that's not even remotely close if you look at reality. Right now, the closest thing we have, we're working on what are called ambient listening solutions. Very, very basic. There are some AI-enabled tools. As a matter of fact, I'm helping develop some of those with some of our vendors so that as a nurse or a doctor is engaging with a patient, that AI tool can help chaperone that event, record that event, upload the event data into an electronic medical record, and then bring in a human in the loop like a supervisor to clean up the data. All that's doing so far, if it's successful, maybe it will save 20-30% of the caregiver's time so they can jump to the next patient quickly. That's good, that's okay. But the challenges we're hearing are these tools are not necessarily multilingual. They make a lot of mistakes. They put some incorrect information in electronic medical records. The integration between the listening devices like iPhones and tablets and the highly controlled electronic medical records like Epic or Cerner or what have you, those integrations are very early in their development right now. The biggest challenge here is that the convenience that you need for your mobile devices to be able to record the caregiving event, that convenience comes with a significant cybersecurity threat in the sense that you have Verizon or AT&T or what have you saving a lot of the recordings and the scribed version of the recordings in the public cloud and then translating it back and putting that back in the electronic medical record. Well, what happens if those cloud environments are hacked? Will a patient's social security number, birth date, personal videos, or interaction videos with the caregiver, they become public, they get hacked. You're talking about a significant cybersecurity event. And here in the US, Medicare information, social security information can be stolen by bad actors from those ambient devices. So the convenience that we are seeing is also significantly marred by the high degree of risk. This kind of brings up a key challenge with AI. So most of you may know, today there is no cybersecurity solution anywhere in the world that was designed for today's version of AI. What that means is the risk of having your AI-enabled data and devices being hacked is extremely high. We've already had at least 2 events where insurance company information was hacked by bad actors. Surgical devices and implantable devices were hacked by bad actors, whether it's a Medtronic insulin pump, whether it's a Scripps health system, electronic health records, electronic medical records being hacked, the cloud providers where United Healthcare, other payers store their patient data, those have been hacked. People have submitted fraudulent bills to Medicare, Medicaid here in the US. People have stolen information that belongs to patients, including their savings accounts information such that is tied to their hospital payment systems. So the lack of cybersecurity that is matched specifically to AI technologies, especially the patient care setting, is a huge risk that is not addressed, that is wide open right now. And it's a matter of when, not if, we're going to see many more of these incidents, especially in the space of theft of voice and gestures. If you have a video of yourself speaking, interacting, a bad actor could use that to create an AI avatar of you and pretend to be you and talk to your banks and talk to your healthcare providers and use that for negative opportunities. So the patient care setting space is ripe for improvement with AI, but it's also at this point in a what I would call a high risk. If you then take a look at conversational AI, this is extremely popular now. Like I've said before, we don't have enough nurses, doctors, clinicians to help with all of the patients that we have. Many times we find that hospital systems would like to make sure that they optimize caregiver time. They want caregivers, such as nurses, such as surgeons, doctors, therapists, to focus 90% or more of the time on directly taking care of the patients and less the administrative aspects. But a lot of clinicians and caregivers also have to spend a lot of the time calling patients, calling insurance companies, taking care of the administrative work. That sometimes takes up 50% of their time. Filing reimbursement claims, documenting patient interactions, calling to check in on patients, welcoming the patients to various tests, test centers, hospitals, and whatnot. And if we take all of those activities that caregivers are performing and have AI do that, could that help? And so the hype is that we're not going to need radiologists to talk to patients about their schedules. We can have an AI bot to take care of that. We don't have to have doctors talking to Medicare or insurance companies to make sure that they come in and help with administrative tasks. AI can take care of that. Well, the reality is all we have right now is a very basic set of maybe 2 or 3 startups that are running pilots, proof of concepts on very basic AI-assisted voice calling tools. So these tools can call on behalf of a hospital system, call a patient, check in on them. And in the future, the idea is that if the patient is wearing a biowearable that can signal their parameters like blood pressure, heart rate, and whatnot directly to the physician or to the AI agent, the AI agent can actually look at that information and say, oh, Mr. Smith, your blood pressure is higher, your insulin is higher, here's what you need to do. The idea is that get to a point where AI-enabled conversational tools can engage with patients as though they were physicians or caregivers and make things faster, smoother, much more effective. The challenge here is that these agents have not been around for more than 3 months or 6 months or 1 month in some cases. As I've engaged with the CEOs of many of these startups and even the bigger tech companies that are creating these agents, they put cautions on their tools saying this tool has not been proven yet, it's not fully approved, it can make mistakes, it may understand some inflections in voice or language changes and things like that. So they're prone to failure. So if you look at this entire list we've looked at, what is hype and what's reality? 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I fully expect at the current pace of growth that AI tools can make healthcare more efficient, save some time for doctors, maybe deliver more profits to healthcare companies. But a rather large challenge is it's not just about the technology continuing to improve. I could go out there and find 2 or 3 very effective conversational AI platforms today that can do the job I need them to do. The problem is they've not been optimized for the risks of patient care. Cybersecurity has to catch up to AI use in healthcare. The insurance payers have to accept that the savings they get from AI, they'll translate and give them back to the patients in terms of lower insurance premiums, which so far they've not done. Physicians and nurses who are right now very concerned about if they will be held accountable for failed AI tools, their malpractice insurance companies and lawyers, they need to also be comfortable that what happens if a patient has a fatality because a mistake was made by an AI tool. Those issues have to catch up slowly. One example that happened, I believe, about 6-7 months ago was a hospital system here used a conversational AI agent here in the US to call a patient to check in on their cardiac status and schedule the next appointment, to which the patient said, the left side of my neck is hurting. And the agent, the voice calling agent enabled with AI said, I repeat, do you want to come in next Tuesday? And the patient said, the left side of my shoulder is hurting. And the AI agent said, oh, you're not ready to make an appointment. Have a nice day, I'll call you back. The problem was that cardiac patient was having a heart attack and had to be rushed to the hospital. There are many, many situations where the intuition, experience, expertise, knowledge, ability to flex that a human caregiver or a doctor or a nurse brings to the table, AI is very, very far away from being anywhere close to being able to replace those caregivers. The good news is, yes, the hype, of course, that's why it's called hype. Hype is always going to be, I would say, for lack of a better word, hyperbolic. It's always going to show this outlandish things that could happen with AI in healthcare. If we can achieve 10% of the hype in the next 5 years, that itself will mean a significant improvement for patients beyond where we are today. Will we get there? How will we get there? In a role like mine, we have no choice. We face patients who don't have enough caregiver support. We don't have enough caregivers in the hospital setting, especially in the US. We have no choice but to push the limits of AI. That's our holy grail, where we can actually deliver some benefits to patients rapidly. We're balancing that with cybersecurity risk. We're balancing that with patient risk. We're balancing that with financial risk, because of course, hospitals are certainly for-profit operations. And the most surprising thing for us was where we thought, wow, we have this great AI-based tool and patients are going to have their life made easier with this. Many patients are interacting very differently with the conversational AI tool than they would with a human. With a human, they have a conversation. With an AI bot, they just give one or two word answers. So those, and many of the patients don't like the very mechanical nature of these particular conversational tools. So if you look back, well, what does that mean? We started by saying the 3 A's of healthcare are very important: availability, accessibility, affordability. AI can help with all of those. It is starting to help, but on a 10-year cycle, we're in the very, very early stage. Since I'm in a role where I'm at the very cutting edge of pushing for all 3 A's to get better with AI, I see hope, but there's going to be some failures, some patient fatalities along the way, hopefully not too many. And we have to get to a point in the next 3 years, 5 years, when we start seeing some hard value coming out of it. So that's my presentation. Thank you. Let me know what your questions are.
Okay. Ram, thank you so much for sharing. Great information. So we want to see from the chat box, does anybody have any questions for Ram and his presentation? Anybody would like to share any questions? Okay, we got some coming from LinkedIn, so hold on 1 minute. We got a few coming from LinkedIn, so we'll look there. But if anybody is on here other than LinkedIn, feel free to put that in the chat. Okay. So I think while we're waiting for some questions, Ram, I was going to ask you, in terms of AI, like what do you see right now with healthcare providers, like in adapting and embracing AI, to complement what they're doing? Is there some resistance, or are they embracing it? Like I kind of the reason why I asked this, because I have personal experience as a professional speaker speaking at AHRA radiology conference for radiology leader. It's kind of like about a year or two ago there was still some resistance, but it's getting better and better each year.
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So unfortunately, the first couple of tools that were put out there for scribing physician practices that used very early versions of AI scribes to document their caregiving conversations with patients. The first few that came out 18, 24 months ago, unfortunately, were very ineffective. So that did dampen some of the enthusiasm on the part of smaller physician practices because they were concerned about liability. They didn't like the reliability of the tools. So there was a segment of family practitioners that pulled back from it. They were the ones who needed it the most because they had smaller practices. They needed to be more efficient. They pulled back because they felt, hey, this is a waste of my time. I don't have to go and check the scribe and make sure it's correct. It's doubling my work. Part of it was not so much that the tools were bad, but they were overhyped, which is where I hold the tech industry accountable. As most of us know here in Silicon Valley, where I live, the tech industry, they're great guys, but they tend to hype things up a lot. Nothing is this will make life easy for you. It's, oh my God, it's going to change the world. Well, when you overhype and sell it, and the physicians came in and said, oh, this looks fantastic, and they were given a big bill for it. The initial failures are still in the memories of many of these physician practices. So now, when more reliable tools have come out, once bitten, twice shy, they're more hesitant, saying, do I really want to go through this again? I believe that it'll take about 12, 18 months more. Once the first couple of hospital systems start using it, then other physicians will come in and say, we'll use it too. But it's a slow progress. Bottom line is physicians want this badly.
Yeah.
They're waiting for a good tool that's reliable.
Yeah, it definitely will make it more efficient. Thank you for sharing that. We got another question that came in. It says, somebody said Forbes came out with an article yesterday claiming AI costs have surpassed the cost of human performing same functions. Any thoughts on that?
100% correct. So initially, when a new technology comes in that is supposed to supplant human tasks, you have to pay a double cost for a short time. And you have to continue to pay the nurses and physicians to do their work, and then the AI piece comes in and runs in parallel. And it's like training wheels, right? Once you let the training wheels off, say in 6 months, 9 months, and AI can completely take those tasks over. Humans are no longer required to participate in those. Then we'll start seeing benefits. But the return on investment, I do ROI calculations every day for every single tool in business, saying, here's what we're going to invest in, here's the investment return. I find myself putting a ROI time frame. You're not going to get a return today. It'll be 12 months from now, 18 months from now. So that's absolutely right. In the short term, there is a higher cost because you have duplicate aspects, human plus AI. And then when the human falls off that particular project, the AI takes over, then you'll start getting more benefits. So it's finance heads all over the healthcare industry are watching this like a hawk, because if you say you can get ROI on something in 6 months or 9 months, they can understand. If it goes beyond 12 months, the chief financial officer will say, hey, that's going to kill my investment returns for my investors for this year. Give me something that I can get value from in 6 months or 9 months. So Forbes is absolutely right. In the short term, yes, increasing costs. In the longer term, it will be lesser. But the other aspect, a lot of people are not thinking about, the cost of energy is going through the roof, because every time you talk to a generative AI bot, if you so much as say thanks and please, that's going to be equivalent to a few pennies added to the electric bill for the providers. Right now, the data centers are picking up the load. The Googles and the Microsofts are picking up the load of the extra cost, but they're not going to do that forever. So come 2027, the bills given to AI users will be more. And in some cases, if you're an AI developer, then if you're developing tools for healthcare, your token usage, what you pay to use the power of AI tools like Cursor, that's going to go through the roof, and someone's got to pay for it. In the short term, venture capitalists are paying for it. But as we go to 2027, that cost will start hitting bills very hard, and you'll see many more complaints that this costs us a lot.
Great, this is fabulous. I know we're right on time. Somebody did mention in the UK, AI is being used across many areas of healthcare for ambient transcribing or transcribing and pattern recognition work, like in radiology. Great, I'll be hearing about that in July at AHRA's annual conference. Before you go, Ram, would you mind giving us a testimonial about your experience here on the Zoolatech platform? Just 30 seconds, if you can just share your
I think it was set up well and everything else, and happy to participate. I like the interactive format, so thank you for having me on. It's been good.
Thank you so much, Ram. Appreciate it. And we encourage everybody to reach out to Ram on LinkedIn. Ram, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today to share your wisdom.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. All right, everybody. So we're going to be moving on. We're going to be heading off to the next speaker. Again, we encourage everybody, again, ask questions. This is your opportunity to do so, and you'll have an opportunity to also on the back end ask additional questions. Now, we're going to be moving along. We did have a speaker that was not able to make this time slot, so we're going to be moving up, and we're going to be talking about the next frontier of AI in learning, what responsible innovation must look like now. We're going to be talking with Tanner Jackson. He is the head of AI products at ETS, and a little bit about Tanner. Tanner is the head of AI products, again, at ETS, overseeing the development and deployment of AI capabilities across the global enterprise. His work spans two core areas: integrating AI into product and platform development, building scalable AI solutions that deliver measurable business and/or educational impact. Tanner leads the end-to-end strategy, execution, and coordination across divisions and manages a cross-functional team, including product and AI-focused roles, with an emphasis on measurement, innovation, customer value, and global scalability. Now, he has over a decade of experience at ETS, including roles in Research Institute, language learning and assessment business, and the Office of the CEO. His work has consistently focused on helping people achieve their potential. He is a respected voice on AI, and he's also a sought-after speaker at top industry forums, including the SHRM Talent Annual Conference, Zoom Educator Summit, and ASU plus CSV, and has been featured on the Chronicle of Higher Education and Education Week as a subject matter expert. Finally, he holds a PhD in cognitive science from the University of Memphis and specializes in business strategy with an expertise in designing interactive and adaptive environments powered by game mechanics, natural language processing, and conversational AI. And without further ado, we welcome Tanner Jackson to the virtual stage. Tanner, feel free to come on and share your presentation with us here today. Oh, Tanner goes on at 10. Oh, so it is Ronnie. My bad, everybody. Sorry. Okay. I was under the impression. Okay. Hold on one second. My bad, everybody. And we're going to have a quick correction here. We're going to bring Ronnie on. Hold on one second. So we're going to bring on Rana Dalba. My bad here. So scratch everything there. We're going to talk about, she's the Senior Director of AI and Data Governance at BAE Systems. She's talking about data as a fuel for AI. So a little bit about Dana. She has got over 20 years experience in driving data-driven decisions through analytics. She now concentrates on harnessing the power of AI, particularly generative AI, to transform business operations. Her expertise lies in crafting tailored solutions to support mission-critical problems, currently exploring the intersection of data governance, AI, and employee experience, with a focus on leveraging AI to streamline tasks and enhance daily workflows. And now we will bring Rana Dalba to the virtual stage. Donna, is she there, Rana? Okay, Rana is joining us right now. Again, we encourage everybody to make sure that you are putting in your questions. And how's everybody receiving value so far from our first speaker? Let's see some thumbs up if you can do that in here. If not, just some comments that you would like to share from our first speaker would be well received. Okay, we're just waiting for Rana to come. So anybody that's on as we wait for Rana to come on, what are some things right now from, again, what you would like to see that's going on in your world of AI in this particular area that we're talking about today? And I'd be glad to share that with everybody to see if we got some common ground. What's been happening? Anybody would like to share in the chat? Let's see here. Somebody says, cool insight so far, insightful and realistic on hype versus reality now in the future. Excellent. All right. I'm sure we got Rana will be coming on, just getting her slides ready to bring on. Okay. Let's see here. She is joining. Okay, she is coming on. Sorry for the delay, everybody. She will be coming on. So if somebody says in the chat box, as we wait for Rana to come in, I see governance gap is a real thing in AI adoption. And as an ecosystem is evolving, is there many unknowns and multiple ways to approach? Curious how others see this. So yeah, for anybody that's on that would like to provide their insights as we wait for Rana to come in, feel free to address there if you'd like. Let's see again. Let's get some common ground. I'll read that again. I see a governance gap is a real thing in AI adoption, and as an ecosystem is evolving, there are many unknowns and multiple ways to approach. Curious how others see this. Anybody like to share? Okay. So as we wait for Rana to come on, anybody would like to share? Somebody says, I am, okay. Somebody claims that they're a CTO and co-founder at DevNuts. We provide AI-based web and mobile solutions. Okay. So somebody says the main problem is that AI cannot make 100%. Let me see if I'm reading that. 100%, is that complete market? I believe that's what it said. A complete market ready products, but they think development work is very easy and they give us low rates. Somebody shares. Okay. Anybody else? And I'm looking to find out what's happening with Rana here. Hopefully we'll get, okay, she's having trouble joining. Okay. So we are working on this, everybody. So bear with us. Anybody else would like to share insights, things that we've talked about today so far? What actually, let's get, while she's coming on, what are some other challenges that you see in this particular area? So when we're talking about today, about enterprise AI, and driving growth and performance, what are some other challenges that are happening that we can see that can be better? They're not just challenges, because without challenges, we can't have opportunities. And without opportunities, we can't generate results. So challenges are a good thing. Anybody like to share? Okay. I don't see anything else coming in. Let me check on the status of where she is. Okay. I'm waiting to hear back where she is. So again, I'm curious. What are some challenges that the people that are on now? What's happening? What can be better? AI, how it's elevating performance, growth, no matter what industry that may be. All right. I don't see. Okay, I don't see any questions. Let me see here. I'm getting an update here. All right, she's having a technical issue, everybody, but we've got somebody working on that for her to come up. So again, we want to give her the time to make sure she can present. So I'd like to use this time to let's have a discussion about what we're talking about today. It's all about enterprise AI. No matter if you're a small, mid-sized company, a large organization, what are some of again, without really understanding the challenges, then we're not going to be able to see it for what it is and what we can do to do better to create opportunities to generate results. Let's put some things out there. Okay, here we go. I think I got something here. Somebody says, I see governance gap is a real thing in AI adoption, and as an ecosystem evolving, there are many unknowns and multiple ways to approach. Curious. Okay, somebody already said that. Okay, I saw. Okay, and they say here in healthcare, this is a real issue. There's a challenge between the speed of a potential adoption and the speed of developing the controls to ensure data governance. As the first speaker highlighted, there's a huge need to improve access to quality healthcare, and AI could do this if the right controls are there. The risk is that the box will be opened before it's ready through frustration of waiting for governance to catch up. Yeah, I agree. I see that. Even though I am not a healthcare professional, I do speak quite a bit into the area of radiology. from a people as a leadership expert, and I've seen that come up. So these are things that are definitely that was a great point there. Anybody like to share it to that comment? Speed of potential adoption and the speed of developing the controls to ensure data governance. Is governance catching up or getting in alignment? Okay. See, and any other people putting anything in? Nope, I don't see anything. Any other challenges? See, one of the things that I always like to say about, resources, solutions, or like tools like AI. Now, we can't depend on them, but we have to see it as a strategic tool and how it's going to complement what we're doing. And the key is cohesion. Is it cohesive to the other elements and processes that are in place? Of course, that includes humans in terms of their role and duties and what they do to make things more streamlined. At least that, I can share that from experience from other industries. So in this case, I would say that, could be the case from here in the tech side of things. Anybody else like to share as we wait for the other speaker? Okay, all right, everybody. Anybody would like to share some insights? This is an opportunity to put that out there as we deal with this technical issue as we get the other speaker to come on. Okay. All right, I'm just gonna check and see where this person may be. All right, they're still working on it. The issue. So let me ask another question. When it comes to the people that are on right now, and what have you seen in terms of AI helping you with your growth and performance? Oh, here we go. We got somebody that just put something in here. I can see workforce engagement as an issue also. Some are very keen to embrace it. Others are simply not technically minded, don't see the point, and don't want to engage. Whether this is through fear or ignorance is probably a mixed picture. Yes, I'm a leader. I'm a certified workplace strategist, and that is definitely true. You're going to have different generations and how they approach things. Sometimes older generations may be a little more resistant to this type of technology. Again, this is what I mean by that is like, this is the way we've always done it and how we'll continue to do it. But the question is, things change. And if we're not adapting, guess what? Then you're not moving forward. So the key is that we have to adapt to what is, not what we think it should be, so that we have now the ability now through AI to help complement those areas. So I agree. That's an area that certain people may have to get over that fear, and that they don't have to know everything about it. They just have to be open to learning more. So that was a great point. And a lot of times when you're here, like with our first speaker in the AI arena, when it comes to patient care, again, you're going to have certain people that are going to be utilizing it, embracing it, and some that are not. And it's going to be very, very important moving forward that cohesiveness, that cohesion, that consistency is what's going to elevate performance and growth. And that has to be addressed. So that's a great point. Somebody says, we're seeing a surprisingly mixed generational picture. Yeah, I'm seeing teenagers hugely skeptical about taking this on. Wow. Yeah. I mean, you would think that the younger generations are more adept to technology and would be open to it, but doesn't mean that's the case with, certain things. So yeah, more, I'm not speaking for all of the younger generations because there are a lot out there that, are, were born with a device in their hand, of course, and have been introduced to AI at an early age, compared to somebody like me, who's a older Gen X in his late 50s, where, I had to learn this stuff. And, by all means, I am not an expert, but yeah, nonetheless, I've gotten really good at using the AI tools in a way that helps me to be more efficient, more productive, which has elevated my performance and helped me with many of my clients that I work with across different industries. So that's a great point as well. Let's see here. I'm getting an update with our speaker. Okay, she's not joining so far, but there was a comment from LinkedIn. Here's another comment from LinkedIn. Has anybody here used AI for human in the loop for FDA 510K to speed up class 2 and 3 approval? For human in the loop for FDA. Now, I can't answer that, but if anybody would like to share to that question, has anybody here used AI for human in the loop for FDA 510K to speed up? Let me go back. Yes, somebody says here is, yes, human in the loop. Yes, we've done that. Okay, great. So we got somebody who says they have. If you'd like to elaborate on that. We got another couple comments to the previous statement we were talking about. We are people who graduated before AI. The students are graduating nowadays are pretty dependent on AI. Yeah, they do project assignments using AI and affecting their basics very much. Yeah, see, that's the thing. We never want to become dependent on anything, even AI. AI has got to be seen as a tool that complements what we do. It's a way to delegate certain things, but not become dependent on it. It's how we use it to make us smarter, more efficient, more productive. Absolutely. Somebody says AI still needs a person to drive it. Yeah, how you prompt it. I would say, getting really good at prompting it to flush out exactly what you require in terms of what you require to move something forward. So the person driving it should have good basics and problem-solving skills. So somebody's asking, what is your opinion on this? What is your opinion on somebody that AI still needs a person to drive it, and they should have good basics and problem-solving skills? Anybody like to share? Okay, here we go. So we got Tanner Jackson coming in. So Tanner, I'm just going to give Tanner. We already kind of introduced you before, but I'm just going to give a quick update again, everybody. We're going to our next speaker. Tanner's going to be talking about the next frontier of AI and learning what responsible innovation must look like now. You may recall I did give the bio about Tanner, but just a quick update. I'll just won't read the entire bio. But again, Tanner is the head of AI products at ETS, overseeing the development and deployment of AI capabilities across global enterprise. His work has spanned over 2 core areas of integrating AI into product and platform development and building scalable AI solutions that deliver measurable business and or educational impact. And he leads end-to-end strategy, execution, and coordination across divisions and manages a cross-functional team, including product AI-focused roles and an emphasis on measurement, innovation, customer value, and global scalability. Tanner, welcome to the virtual stage, and we look forward to hearing you.
Great, thank you. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for the nice introduction. So welcome, everybody. Appreciate you joining today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of my company, my role, and what I'm really going to focus on is the aspects around responsible AI and innovation. So as you mentioned, I'm the head of AI products here at ETS. So that means I'm focusing on how we're using AI to develop our products. So generate content, make adaptive environments, scoring responses, and interpreting a lot of data. And so I'll kind of walk through some examples of that. But before I get into that, I want to say a little bit more about what my company is and so where we're coming from. So for those who may not be familiar with ETS, we are a global education and talent solutions company. So we conduct 50 million assessments every year. So we have tons of data around students, learners, adults. We have over 200 patents, and we have over 12,000 publications. So we are very research front and center. We do a lot of science as part of like how we're advancing measurement and assessment. We are in 9,000 locations around the globe, including 200 countries. So this includes test centers, home offices, where we're delivering a lot of these assessments. We've been around for over 78 years. And we are known for some global standards. So both in the top right. So for those of you in the United States, if you ever hear something around the nation's report card, so how are students faring in like 4th, 8th, and 12th grades in terms of their math skills or their science skills or their English skills, we help to we develop and administer that kind of program. And we also do that globally. So for PISA and PIAC, this does this across 80 countries for both students and adults. How are educational programs around the world progressing and helping to improve opportunities for students, adults, and helping to kind of grow that education globally? Now, we're also known for some of our product brands. So TOEFL and TOEIC, those are both about English language abilities. TOEFL helping students to be able to go and take international education at English-speaking institutions, and TOEIC helping people to get jobs at English-speaking companies that might be international companies. The GRE, a lot of people might know about helping to get people into higher education, and practice is about teacher licensures, helping to make sure that we have qualified teachers that are prepared to be in that classroom, delivering the education to all of our growing students. And then lastly, PSI. This is mostly focused around workforce licensure credentials, certifications, all the way from like cosmetology and tattooing up to drone pilots. There's a wide range of how do we know that people have the right skills to kind of go into these professions, especially if there's certain risks involved. So we're helping to make sure they have those skills. ETS is a global nonprofit, and so we're very outcome driven. And over here on the left, our brand promise, what we're trying to make sure that we're accomplishing in the world, is to advance the science of measurement to power human progress. What that means is we have that research up front, that's the science part, and what we're really trying to focus on is how do we help people to demonstrate what they know, what they can do to give them opportunities. So powering human progress is let's make sure we make people's skills and talents and knowledge visible to give them options in different ways and demonstrate that ability. So we do that by promoting skill proficiency. How do we know that good people are good at leadership or critical thinking, things like that? What are they good at? How do they demonstrate that? How do we help to kind of progress that over time? Empowering upward mobility. So how do you get more opportunities? Maybe there's things that you don't have an opportunity to show in your day-to-day job. How do we help you to demonstrate that so that you can kind of do more and accomplish more than you might be thinking of on your own? And then unlocking opportunities for all. Demonstrating those skills, making them visible, really allow other people to see, oh, hey, this person's really talented, they've got great skills, let's kind of pull them in. So it's enabling those opportunities and really empowering the people. We are very focused on AI. We've been doing AI since the early 2000s, quote, before it was cool. So we've been always investing in that and a lot of like what we call natural language processing. How do we help to take in students' work? How do we help to score it? And so we have had a long history in this space. And one of the things that we've consistently kind of pushed on is the responsible use of AI. And so more recently, 2024, shortly after ChatGPT 3 kind of came out, we made sure that we published responsible use in AI and assessment. So for our field of assessment and measurement, what are the ways that we use AI and how do we do so responsibly? We also recently in January launched the Center for Responsible AI in Learning and Assessment. So this is one of our research institute centers that's really kind of focusing on digging in about how do we do this responsibly while still accomplishing those learning and assessment goals. And then in general, the kinds of things that we're focusing here on, how do we generate content and items. For a global organization, how do you make sure you're factoring in people from different backgrounds, different cultures? You can't use idioms like, it's raining cats and dogs, because somebody from another country might not understand what that means. So how do we do that kind of thing responsibly? Adaptive assessment. How do we make sure that we're giving everybody the equal chance to show what they can do? How do we keep that fair and valid and reliable? So it's really critical that we're doing that so responsibly. And then remote proctoring and security. With some of these high stakes assessments, do you get into this job? Do you have a good enough score? There's incentive for people to kind of to cheat or try to do things that they shouldn't. And so we get deep fakes, people trying to come on like a camera like this, trying to hide their identity. How do we detect those? How do we keep this fair and valid and honest for those people who are trying to kind of get those new opportunities? And so we have to keep pace with that AI. And I'll talk a little bit more about this on this next slide. So with this huge focus on AI, we have to kind of keep ourselves to like the standards that still existed before AI. So we've always had the ETS standards for assessment. We audit our own products and our own programs to make sure that we are constantly kind of delivering on that brand promise that I mentioned. And so even with AI, we've kind of instantiated governance and compliance. So we have not only the original assessment standards, but now we also have AI standards that we're trying to keep to. And so we have an overall organization-wide AI strategy, and then how we handle that and how we keep that safe and reliable. We also have multiple committees and working groups. We work with our legal, our compliance office, the security, as I mentioned, our technology divisions, research, product development. All of these people come together in different work streams to kind of make sure that we're comparing those best strategies. Or if we're thinking about launching a new product, working with our compliance office before that happens instead of afterwards. And so we're really trying to figure out, how do we drive augmentation? So not necessarily automating humans' jobs, but helping them to do their jobs better. So we have other groups who are trying to come through, look at our different business units, our different divisions, and figure out, how do we change the processes so that we don't have as many opportunities for human error, not to replace humans, but to make those processes better and deliver more customer value with the same kind of organization that we have now. And lastly, AI changes so fast. Every probably month we have some kind of new release, new tool, something like that. How do you keep up with that? Well, some people are, or at least different parts of it, and some people aren't. And so we're having to make sure that we are prepared for that. So how do we keep our data protected when AI creates new vulnerabilities? So if you've heard about the mythos from Anthropic, it can detect a lot of vulnerabilities in technology. How do we make sure we're staying ahead of that with all of the important, sensitive personal information that we have on people? Keep that protected. So we have to stay up with that latest technology. As I mentioned, the deep fakes. How do we keep making sure that we're detecting that the person who is testing right now is the person we think it is? And so we have to make sure that we're keeping up with how sophisticated the world gets along the way. And so in addition to all the stuff I mentioned about our company from the NAPE PIAC, we have also been conducting the ETS Human Progress Report. So this is the third year, 2026 is the third year. The data was collected last fall, and it was from around 18 countries around the world. Now you can see kind of on the map the countries that were selected. And we have some high income, some middle income countries, according to the WEF, the World Economic Forum framework. And this is totaled about 32,000 respondents. I'm going to share some of the insights that we got from that in just a second. All of the people that we talked to were adults. And we got at least 1,000 respondents per country. And so, as you can tell, some of those countries might have more than 1,000. And so this year, we oversampled a little bit in the United States. Okay, so I want to talk about some insights that relate to AI. So what's actually changing with AI? Well, when we did the Human Progress Report, 52% of all of those global respondents predict that their work will involve AI within 2 years. Now we're in an AI summit right now, so probably we think that that's maybe 100% of the people who are on this call. But the people who surveyed are across all walks of life. So they might be construction workers, servers, they could be in technology or healthcare. But half the people on the planet are expecting to have AI be a part of their work within the next 2 years. So that's by 2028, 2027 actually, by the fall. That's soon. 60% of these global respondents feel pressure to adopt AI tools before they're ready. So it might be that your company says, hey, we have these new tools, make sure to use them. Or teachers feel this pressure a lot when they're sitting like, I don't know how to use AI, I don't know how to incorporate it into my classroom, but I feel compelled to because I got to prepare my students, but then I'm worried about how it uses. So they don't feel ready, but they still got to figure out ways of adopting it. And that kind of anxiety and that kind of uncomfortableness kind of sits over a lot of people these days. And if you're in the chat, I'd love to hear if you also are feeling those. So if you have a way of like doing a thumbs up or yes, I feel the same way, would love to see that in the chat. 65% of global respondents say they use AI because they need to stay competitive, not to get ahead and not to just do work. But if I'm not using AI and the person next to me is, then maybe I'm not as competitive, or they're producing more than me. So I've got to stay up to date on AI because I want to stay competitive in my field and make sure I still have like a longer term career and preparing for that. There's a lot of pressure around that. 69% of global respondents say they have no clear picture of what the next generation of jobs will look like. So that's in about 10 years. What will the new jobs look like? If AI is changing my job today or my job next year, what is that going to look like in 10 years? And if I don't know what that's going to look like, how do I prepare for that? How do I prepare for the unknown? What do I need to kind of grow? What do I need to do to kind of like make myself future ready? That unknown is also very concerning for a lot of people in the workforce. And I think it kind of comes up in conversations that you'll have around AI pretty frequently. 77% of respondents say they are proactively building diverse skills to protect their careers. So not just being deep in one, but also making sure that you have like a broad set of skills. Now with AI, it's helping people to kind of go beyond. It has a very broad general knowledge. So now you can kind of get into other skills, or you can help to kind of consolidate or look for connections across different areas. So these broad, diverse skills help people to kind of say, well, where is AI appropriate? I can't just focus on one spot. So how do I know if I kind of use AI to help me on this edge? Is that still relevant or not? And how do I kind of leverage my human skills to do more, go beyond what an AI can do? So I probably need to make sure that I have that repertoire of skills ready to go to keep advancing in my career. And lastly, 84% of respondents say that upskilling or reskilling is a necessity to compete in today's job market. Now, before AI, 5 years ago, upskilling and reskilling was a differentiator. That's how you stood out. That's how people were like, oh, that person's a rock star. That person's like got all this knowledge bringing to it. Now it's viewed as this is necessary just to compete. The number of people who are applying for jobs like seems to be crazy. So how do I make sure that I can at least stand out and be competitive with other people? I got to do that by upskilling, getting more skills, getting a more diverse background, and bring that to the table as part of what I can offer for a future job. Again, love to see comments in the chat if you have thoughts on that. How do you feel about reskilling? What kind of skills, if you are reskilling, if you are upskilling, where do you see that kind of need for yourself? Or have you seen colleagues do that? Feel free to share those in the chat because I think that's coming up a lot as well. So I heard in the conversation that was happening right before I started, we're looking at what are the challenges or what are some potential fears in AI. And so I think one of the hard things is for those people who have not necessarily started using AI, how do you build trust for it? And it's not really possible to build trust for something that you don't become familiar with or use to some extent. So one of the key things about building trust for AI and knowing what it can and can't do is using it. Now it can be small, but you got to kind of start playing with it and using it and feeling the edges. And as you do that, you'll be able to kind of build your own confidence in terms of knowing what it can do well and what it can't do well. And that's how you end up building trust for certain parts of AI. So use of AI is a prerequisite for trusting AI. So when you start to use it, maybe you're using it for like generating content. It's really important to kind of come back and question it. So like if I'm developing AI content, did it give me the correct information or did it hallucinate something? start in an area kind of where you are familiar, because if you start in an area where you're unfamiliar, you won't know if it was correct or incorrect information, because it probably looks reasonable. I mean, literally people have written reports at companies to share out publicly, and then later found out, oh, some of that information was hallucinated, or the references that were included weren't real, because they were kind of extending out a little bit beyond what they already knew. So make sure that you're doing that and asking those questions. And then also, when you're receiving work, how much of this work is from human versus an AI? Now, we're in the education field, so this comes up a lot for teachers when they're trying to figure out, I'm giving an assignment, I may require them to use AI, but how much of that is AI versus how much of that is not? And even in my own company, when we're helping and trying to automate and improve the way that we're communicating and like providing updates for things, is that update coming like generated by AI, or is that generated by the employees themselves? So we're using that a lot. We want to encourage it, but we also want to make sure we're giving credit where the work came from, so that we know how that come about and know where to ask more questions. Similarly, if AI is taking action for you, did it do what I wanted it to do? So you could just ask it for content, and did it do that well? Did it evaluate the things appropriately? So if you're providing content and asking it to help critique, if you're asking it to help generate things, did it understand what you were asking for? Did it do the things that you were expecting? So making sure you're not taking that at face value. And then lastly on this slide, responsible AI. What information does this thing have access to? Now, with things like Claude, they have like a desktop utility called Cowork, which can write to your folders. It can create new folders. It can change files. I used it to change all the file names for all of the photos on my desktop. But what I didn't do is I didn't let it have access to other folders. Be careful, like where the breadth of which you can do. For example, I actually just heard about an article this week where somebody accidentally wiped out all the data for their company because they were just trying to clean up unused tables in their database schema. And so you have to be very careful how you're limiting that AI use and what it has access to. And particularly for us, we have a lot of sensitive information on people's assessments, their names, kind of where they live, what their scores are on assessments. And so how do we make sure we're protecting that information? That's partly why we have such a big emphasis around responsible AI, is that we have kind of a lot of accountability for ourselves in terms of how we use that and be careful with access. So I've seen some really interesting examples in product organizations recently around AI. And so this image was created by AI, and you will see that there are some specific parts on this figure where you can see where we had to add text boxes over it. Because one of the things that AI is not good at is visuals. So asking it, trying to prompt it, and trying to see, can it make a flowchart and help to kind of figure out how these things fit together? It's got limitations. And so this is something that I'm aware of, but I leave it in here too as part of an example for you to kind of see, like, I know it has limitations, but it's not going to necessarily impact the point that I want to make here. And so in a product organization, one of the things that I've kind of seen is you have all these different functions. So on the screen, we're representing a whole bunch of different functions about how maybe different divisions in a company work together to kind of produce an overall ed tech platform. So that e-learning platform up there. So you might have aspects about tech support, what's not working, how do we feed that in? Learning analytics, how are our students progressing through this platform? How do we help to improve it? We have to generate the content that goes into that. So you have all these functions kind of moving together. And as of like 3-4 years ago, these were all humans. So you might have some automated processes, but these are all humans working together, trying to pass information from one side of the org to the other, making sure that everybody has that relevant information. Well, now with AI, some of these boxes themselves may now be AI. So our tech support, customer support, sometimes you often call in now, and that is now some kind of chatbot or bot. So while there's still some way to escalate to a human, a lot of these functions are now becoming taken over by AI, or at least partially so. So now we have not only just human to human interaction, but now we have human to AI interaction inside the company, much less from customers outside. But how do you now make sure that you are either giving that AI the right information, or the AI servicing the right information to you? And then also, there might be boxes that don't currently exist that now will exist because of AI. So one of the things that we're looking at now is, like, if you have a system that's working like this, how can you use AIs to help monitor and make sure that all of these arrows are actually functioning appropriately? And so I've seen some really cool examples from at least a lot of startup companies or younger companies where they're placing AI bots to kind of automatically feed things and feed information. So one example is they in this customer success box in the bottom right, they're talking with a potential client to kind of onboard a new solution for them. They have a great conversation. They talk about what do we need this product to do, what are the expectations, kind of like what do they want the experience to look like. And if they record that conversation, so they get consent for this, but they record that conversation now can feed all the way over into the curriculum development. Oh, well, the client said they want this thing, so we can already inform this curriculum development. And then the experience that the client wants, we can also use it to inform the content creation. What is the voice? What is the sound? What is the user experience like in terms of like that feel? It can also then feed into like the tech support. How do we want that kind of to feel for these people? Well, the same thing can also go for tech support. When you're getting calls in, when you're seeing problems, how do you automatically surface all those problems and the necessary fixes up into the e-learning platform, or the people who are the IT technical support who are trying to figure out how do we fix this? How do we make this better? How do we adjust the content, make it easier, more difficult, more challenging? All of those systems now have an easier way of surfacing problems and making recommendations to kind of fix it. So that's really interesting there to kind of see now that you have like the AIification of organizations, and it should help to a lot of communication, but at the same time, it's a totally new way of keeping orgs connected. And so there's still a lot of growing pains that kind of happen there. And so I want to go over one quick example here. So one of the things, so one of the things that we are working on, so how do we do responsible scaling for measurement, designing an assessment for someone or for a client? And so one of the things that we have to look at is like, well, what are the skills that we're measuring? How do we define that? And so actually for one of those is AI literacy. Do you and your company know when someone is AI literate or not? What is your definition of being literate? Is it just knowing how to prompt ChatGPT? Is it knowing, like, being responsible what data to put into ChatGPT or not? What makes somebody or establishes someone as being AI literate? Well, first, so for us, you need a skills framework. Define the skills that you're trying to measure, and then know kind of basically like what makes somebody good or bad at that specific skill. And then what is this assessment goal? How long do you want to be like a 5-minute thing? Are you like, okay, I just need a rough estimate, kind of like, are they good or bad? Or is this a risk or not? Or is like, I want a full credential. Like I want this person to say, yes, there's no problem here. They can work on all of our database systems. They can have access to everything because I trust them due to how solid their knowledge is. So you got to kind of define what those assessment goals are. So for us, we're in that kind of high stakes assessment. And so one of the things is if we're going to make really important decisions on like giving somebody a license to do something or a certification to do something, or credential, then when we generate content using AI, what we don't do is then just deliver that content and assume that it's good. So we at ETS make sure that we have human reviews. So if you're going to generate the content and an assessment, we have key steps along the way. This is human in the loop. I saw that come up in the chat earlier, but keeping a human in the loop for us is critical to make sure that we are keeping to our fairness guidelines, our ethical guidelines, and making sure that we have a valid assessment. We're actually measuring the thing that we want, and so that we're not kind of misrepresenting anything. So this is an example for us of how we're doing responsible AI, and we're having humans still be in that loop before we actually administer it out to users and teachers and all the test takers. So I'll kind of end there, but when I want to kind of step through all the way from our theoretical examples of AI and being responsible to a specific example about where we are keeping a human in the loop for us as an educational assessment and measurement organization. And then with that, I will open it up for questions, and thank you. I can't hear you, Chris.
Sorry about that. I was on mute there. I thought I came off mute. I just want to say great presentation. You did a great job. And so before we want to get some questions in here for Tanner. Tanner, somebody mentioned that you had a great presentation, and he's got his LinkedIn profile there. So if you could see that in the public chat, you want to connect with David. Looks like he was looking to reach out. And anybody has questions for Tanner, I thought that was a very informative presentation, really great insights that can realistically align to what many of us are doing now in our industries. I know I can speak across many different industries what Tanner had shared. Any questions that you would like to ask Tanner? We do have plenty of time because of the last speaker was not able to make it. Anybody like to post a question? And that also includes people on LinkedIn. So let me see if we get anything from LinkedIn. Here's a question from LinkedIn, Tanner. Which AI tool which AI tool is best for creating the images and acceptable for reputable journals?
Oh, that's tough. And I think that's changing somewhat on a regular basis. So for us, I think a lot of the image generation, so it's interesting, even the one that we had there initially was developed in Copilot, which was using ChatGPT, but then later we had to refine it in Gemini. So some of these have like slightly different capabilities. I do think with the introduction of Claude Design, I'm really curious to see. I haven't had a chance to play with it much, but I know it's coming out with a much kind of more visual aspect. None of them that I've seen are really like convincing to me that like it can get to like scientific level of precision. For my general use, I personally use a lot of Claude Code and Claude Code work. It helps both with kind of like my general tasks, but also playing it. A lot of my team also uses that. I am more on the product side. We've used Figma Make. We've used Stitch from Google. So I haven't used it as much for our publications. We've still been making those figures manually. I'll have to look at and see if there's been much on that. So it's a great question. I think visuals are really hard for AI right now. They also, if you're doing games, it can't do maps, it can't do puzzles. It really struggles with kind of like the visual orientation, even if you prompt it heavily. The relative spatial awareness on that precision is not great yet.
Yeah. I mean, there's still like, I guess there's still like traditional ones out there, like, like there's, obviously Canva still with the AI, if you use their AI image generator. I mean, that could just be for all, just general type stuff, and could be Adobe Firefly. I mean, again, but like you said, I don't think there's like any clean, decisive tool right now you can say that's it, at least from my experience. And I'm more experienced as you with this.
I mean, one of the ways that I try to get around that is by having it create specific assets that I might use. And so I'll have it create, if I have an idea of what I want that to look like, I will have it generate an asset. And then what I ask is I make sure to prompt it to have a transparent background. And then I will go in and kind of like stitch those together in some way. That's kind of my workaround for that. And so I've been using different tools to what asset I'm trying to make.
And it would be safe to say, let's just say, again, if we're looking at this on an enterprise level, of course, whatever tool you're using, if you're using an enterprise level, it's going to be a lot better, right? If you were using a free version or some, that maybe that next tier up, which, could be good, but never at a level if you're using a higher level version of it, I would say. Here's another question that came in. Let me see if this is a question. Somebody says, best to experiment with different tools for a niche use case. They're all developing week by week. Just kind of reinforces what Tanner said and what we were having in this conversation. Another person reached out to says, Alina said, great presentation. I think she's one of our speakers. It's going to be, she said a great presentation. We got time here.
The wow tough the changes week by week is absolutely true. So even if the answer I gave you today, it would be wrong like a month from now. So I think that's the other part, going back to when I said building trust with AI is about use. So you can use something now and it may or may not work. A month from now, they will get an updated model and now it might work. So you kind of have to still continue to dabble. And I think that's kind of the hardest part with all of this AI is you can't keep up with all of it. So one of the other things that I didn't include in this presentation, but I've included in other talks is make sure to share what you're doing with AI with other people, because they might be catching up and staying up to pace with a different part of AI. So like just with that question, I might not be keeping up with that part of AI as much in terms of like scientific documentation, but I am keeping up with it in terms of like software development and product development. But sharing those things publicly really helps kind of like as a community around AI and all of the things that it moves so quickly, we can keep pace. If you're doing it in isolation, it's really hard to try to manage keeping up with all those things because they just change so quickly.
Great. Well, this is great. And let me just see if there's any other questions that anybody has for Tanner. Somebody said agreed. Nobody can keep up with everything. Sure. I mean, that's like with everything. We just got to do the best we can with what we have at the moment. So Tanner, before, what we'd like, if we see another question come in, if you could give us like a 30-second testimonial about your experience here sharing on the Zoolatech platform around this amazing topic that we are presenting here over the half day on Enterprise AI Innovation Summit.
Yeah, sure. So this was nice. It was a little bit surprising because I joined as a guest, and I haven't been on many platforms where we join as a guest and then the features come online for you to then start to have a different functional role live midstream. So it was nice because at first I wasn't sure how to like share my screen. But then as soon as it was added in as another feature, that was really handy to kind of be able to pull people in and out on the fly. So I can see how, especially from your perspective or being more familiar with it now, that really enables a lot more flexibility in terms of like administering these kinds of events.
Great. Thank you so much. And Tanner, I want to make sure everybody that's on here, make sure you reach out to Tanner on LinkedIn, connect with him, just some great information. If there is any last minute questions, now's your time before we move on to the next speaker. Anybody have an additional question here for Tanner?
I do see one in there from looked like it came in from LinkedIn. Yeah. So which tool is making this product organizational flowchart? So it was a little bit of a journey. So it started in Copilot using ChatGPT. Then until we made several different iterations, because describing like a process flowchart for something, it comes up with things that are very different. We actually needed to call it a network of things. So it was started in Copilot, ChatGPT, and then moved to Gemini to kind of refine some of those aspects. And so that was the answer to that question. And then authentic AI tool we can use for specific purposes. I'm not quite sure what that question's asking. But I do think like you'll have to work on like your use case. So if you're looking at software development, the most popular one for enterprise has been Claude Code, but Codex has very quickly caught up. And so I have people on my team that use both of those. And I think like you'll have to figure out what tools work for you. I am personally, this is not my company's opinion, but I really like Claude and Anthropic. It's very good. It's very transparent about what actions it's taking. It steps you through all of those things. It's very helpful. It will actually ask clarifying questions before it takes action. And so I appreciate how transparent that and how well it communicates back and forth with me. So when I develop my own apps or I develop kind of like different projects and things, I've been appreciative of like that Claude environment.
I agree. I agree 100%, Tanner. I always like I like to challenge AI, right? So I want it to challenge me too to make sure that we're on the same page. So I totally agree with that. Tanner, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Just great insights. And I know a lot of people, shared a great presentation. And, again, make sure everybody to reach out and connect with Tanner on LinkedIn.
Look forward to it. Thank you. Appreciate it all.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, we are going to be moving forward here. We're going to be moving on. We're going to be talking about enterprise AI in 2026, governance, agents, and the reality of execution. So in this particular area, we're going to be looking at why most AI initiatives stall between pilot and production. What are the architectural implications of single agent versus multi-agent systems? Why governance is not a compliance add-on, but a design requirement. And then how to select the AI use cases that scale without systematic risk. So we're going to be here with our subject matter expert in this area, Alina Ravilis. She's the Director of Data Science and AI at Home Trust Company. And a little bit about Alina before she comes on. She is a leader in AI, data science, and data engineering with a strong track record of delivering value with data. She has 20 plus years of experience leading teams of data scientists and data engineers, building AI-driven solutions and implementing AI ML strategies that drive business impact. She has successfully stood up analytics functions and AI products across industries, including finance, retail, loyalty, marketing, CPG, healthcare, banking, insurance, fraud modeling, and energy. And her expertise spans AI tech strategy, machine learning, and generative AI, delivering LLM-based applications and AI-powered insights to executive decision makers. Just a little word here before we bring Alina on. I will be logging off temporarily. I will be back at 12:10 to make sure we greet the other speaker and wrap everything up for everybody here. But without further ado, the stage is yours, Alina. Welcome to the summit, and we look forward to your presentation.
So thank you for having me. I apologize that my vocals are not great. I'm still recovering. Welcome everyone. My name is Alina Revelis. I'm the Director of Data Science and AI at Fairstone Bank of Canada. I'm also the CEO and founder at AI Future Leaders. And today we are going to be speaking about enterprise AI in 2026. We'll touch upon governance, AI agents, and the reality of execution. So AI, it's a big term. The question is not when, or it's more about how we are going to adopt it and how we are going to apply AI. We have got AI across the board now. Companies are all talking about it. Everyone is standing up pilots, experiments. Few are still having that success, those success stories and that business value. So in this slide, I just want to touch briefly upon what do we mean when we say AI? It's actually a huge concept from smart robotics, decision intelligence. You have AI agents, generative AI, chatbots. We also have got predictive models, machine learning and predictive models and analytics. Oftentimes we say AI to mean all of these good things. So the challenge remains here. We still have that AI execution gap. Several enterprises in 2026, this year, reporting that it's difficult to deliver AI at scale with that telemetry, with that resilience, that orchestration, and that clear ownership of decisions. The challenge is that enterprises are launching AI initiatives. Everybody is excited, but there is still a gap between the promise and the production grade impact. And that gap, unfortunately, is increasing between companies. So in this session, we are just gonna dive into this a bit further about this gap and how do we bridge that gap between your pilots and that production and that scale, and how do we generate that value with AI. So AI agents, that's a real disruptor. They're all about action. AI agents are all about taking action, executing, delivering. I suspect many of us are starting to dabble in agentic systems. Some of us have got agentic systems already in production. Many companies are experimenting. And for the first time, AI, it gets a memory, it gets personality, access to tools. You might actually have agentic systems talking to other agentic systems. And Elon Musk actually predicts that, well, in the future, because of this situation with AI agents and where AI is going, well, maybe work is going to be optional. And maybe money is going to be just irrelevant. So we shall see. We shall see if Elon Musk's prediction is going to come true. Others are actually concerned as to AI taking over and automating tasks, maybe entire job functions. But we do know that AI is disrupting the industry, from financial, insurance, actually across the board. Every single industry has got data, has got analytics, and has got a place for an AI application. So let's talk about AI agents briefly. We all say AI agents, but do we know what it means and what are the type of these AI agents? A very simple AI agent, you can say, or just a simple agent, is just a reflex agent. You have a thermostat in your house. Well, let's say the temperature in my house right now, 21 degrees. If it goes up, this agent, this thermostat is going to kick in, and it's going to, if the temperature is high, it's going to turn on the AC, and it will try to lower it back to 21. And the same goes if it gets very cold in the house. If it goes beyond and lower than 21 degrees Celsius, the heat is going to come on. So it's a very simple reflex agent based on certain rules. Now we can have much more complicated systems, model-based systems with memory, with rules, with navigation systems. And the complexity increases with this. You could have a goal-based agent that seeks a goals, that plans, and that actions. Or adaptive agents, such as a recommendation engine, based on certain inputs, for example, based on certain customers. We might be producing a recommendation as to which product we should be offering you next. So this next best action. And the model would be adapting based on your browsing history, based on your purchase history, based on maybe other data points, maybe your social interactions, maybe based on what you downloaded and how you interacted with the company. So adaptive agents. Also, you could have multi-agent systems. You could have agents working collaboratively on a common task. So imagine a situation, let's say you're a company and you want to follow up with your customers. You might have an AI agent that crafts custom email communication to talk to your customers. But you have got customers in different languages. You might set up agents that translate that message into different languages. You might have yet another agent to come in and validate the quality of that content, and maybe another one to do QA. So you might have multi-agent systems talking to each other and figuring out, okay, if they're fully autonomous, then they would take the action of actually sending out that email communication to that customer. Many companies, especially regulated industries, we don't tend to do that. We tend to put a human in the loop, where, for example, a salesperson or a marketing individual in a marketing department reviews that communication before it goes out to that customer. So we call it human in the loop. But if you are a company with thousands such communications, can you actually afford employees, human employees, to review all the content? Maybe not. At that case, you might be doing something called human on the loop, potentially reviewing maybe a subset of these communications, doing some spot checks, or only examining those edge cases. Utility-based agents, dynamic pricing algorithms, loyalty offers, optimizations, they maximize utility. It could be your customer's lifetime value that you want to optimize. You want to maybe optimize spend, or you may want to minimize something, such as that unsubscribe rate. You want to retain as many customers as possible. So there's different types of agents. When it comes to enterprises, there are lots of tools available to us. There's lots of applications we can do from machine learning. And in machine learning, you are using your custom proprietary data, and you might be predicting something that's specific to you. So it's your data predicting something very specific. For example, your customer churn. RAG systems have become very popular. So those are retrieval augmented generation. They combine the language models and enterprise knowledge systems grounded in responses. So this would be underneath your custom chatbots, on top of your custom knowledge base. So imagine policies and documents from your company, and we can set up a chatbot for, let's say, employees to interact with all the thousands of policies in the company. So that would be that under the hood. Agents can come into play where they would take on planning, they decide some sort of actions. They have got access to tools, to memory. They do have access to large language models. With generative AI, a company could be generating content, images, creative, enabling drafting. You could leverage this across many initiatives. We're all familiar with copilots. Some of us, I suspect, are using Microsoft Copilot and other tools. And automation. This one is an interesting one. And often I get asked, is it the same? Automation or agentic systems. So automation tends to be, when we say that, we tend to speak about robotic, RPA, robotic process automation. And we tend to speak about rule-based execution, deterministic, auditable, structured, without that large language model in there. So this one is more about, hey, I have a pen. Let's automate it. Let's put it from this spot, point A, to point B. With an AI agent, hey, here's a pen. Is it a pen? Where should we put it? Do we know to put it here or there? So agentic systems, GenAI systems, they are probabilistic. Automation is deterministic. Okay, now that we have our definitions, many are adopting AI agents. 88 of executives, back when they were surveyed a year ago, they were saying, well, they do plan to increase AI-related budgets due to agentic AI in 2025. Now that we are in 2026, every executive has got AI on their roadmap. Close to 80%, or maybe more actually by now, of companies are adopting AI agents and agentic systems. Many enterprises are transferring many tasks from humans to AI systems and agents. And in a couple of years, IDC projects 1.3 billion AI agents. So can you imagine if we have got 8 billion humans on the planet, in a couple of years, we might actually have 8 billion agents. Well, this particular report is projecting 1.3 billion. Right now, we have got a lot of agents, and there is now even social systems, and there, like a chatbot, like a Facebook for AI agents to go and talk. So there's now social networks for AI agents, and we are shifting into a place where human and AI are working side by side, collaborating. So the shift is from assistive AI, copilots, chatbots. Now we are in this, 2026 is all about agentic AI, autonomous systems that reason, plan, and act. So many of us are familiar with copilots and chatbots. What's happening right now in many companies is that many tend to go and, let's say, purchase Microsoft Copilot, implement it, and they say, well, I have AI now in my company. I have got this Microsoft Copilot. How come I'm not seeing that business value? And there was a study recently that came out that measured the impact of tools such as the Copilot, such as tools like ChatGPT, Claude, and those tools tend to be personal productivity. They tend to be around helping that human. They need human input. They may have limited context awareness, and they tend to be more reactive. Or Copilot, you might have that license, that big license that integrates into your Microsoft tools. So that's for personal productivity. And that study that I just mentioned, 7,000 enterprises took place in that study, and the impact on the bottom line was in the 2 to 3%. It was still impact. It was productive. Yes, there was a lift, but it was only in the 2 to 3%. Now, when it comes to agents, proactive, they could be acting autonomously. You could have multi-step systems. They could be executing complex workflows. And if you have any questions, please do type them in the chat. Okay. So they use tools. They could be using adaptive reasoning, navigating through ambiguous situations. And they could be collaborating with other agents or humans. The impact from AI agents, companies are seeing 30-40% lift, depending on the use case, maybe even higher. And it's important to figure out where do you implement those agents to get that business value. So trends and impact of agents, autonomous decision making. I don't know how many of us have got truly autonomous systems. We often tend to have that human in the loop, or we like to control what our agents are doing, but companies are venturing into this area. Here are some examples: healthcare diagnostics, financial transactions. You could potentially have a fully autonomous AI system that is making certain changes based on market conditions, for example, or based on certain data inputs. Collaborative, multi-agent orchestrations, they are also, you can see in applications such as supply chain, robotics. And enterprises are shifting from rule-based and reactive to more autonomous, more reasoning, with AI models improving. And right now we have got GPT from GPT 5.5. We have got latest and greatest from Anthropic, Claude models. LLMs are improving quite a bit. And the quality of AI agents is improving quite a bit. And these systems, if they are designed well, they could take and they could produce quite a bit of impact. So here is a little AI agent just to show you that I built. So I built it. I built this with N8N. It's just to demonstrate, just conceptually, because we're saying AI agent and you're hearing the words AI agent everywhere. So what does this mean? I have got a conversation. In this particular one, I have a chat. And this AI agent, I give it access to OpenAI models. In this case, I selected a GPT 5.2, I believe, model. I gave it access to a memory, so it remembers what it is this that we were discussing. I gave it access to my particular email, to my Gmail. I gave it access to my Google Calendar. And when conversations come in, this AI agents, this particular agent is literally helping me draft meeting notes, summarization. It can book me into my calendar. It can produce drafts. I'm not letting it talk to any customers or stakeholders. All I'm getting it to do is produce drafts based on my inputs, based on other information that's coming in, and for me to review. Now, it's a very simple toy example. And now imagine many agents talking to each other. More complex examples. Let's say you're an enterprise. And let's assume you're Let's assume you're in the insurance industry. For example, you might have claims coming in. You could have one AI agent to figure out what is this data that's coming in. Document intelligence. Let's understand and scan those thousands of documents and applications that are coming into my system. Another AI agent could be kicking in to classify and tag. A third one might be taking some sort of action and updating your CRM systems, potentially alerting that human employee worker downstream, or taking other actions. So if you're a business that's processing 1,000 documents every single day, and your AI agent can help reduce some of that workload, and if your business, that's core business for you, you could see quite tremendous value from doing something like that. But before you build agents, you need to figure out, do you even need them? What is it that you're asking the AI agents to do? Are you introducing risks? And how are you making sure your agents are secure, delivering value? Are you monitoring them? Do you have the right guardrails in place? Many of us are actually in regulated industries. If you are in financial industry, healthcare industry, you need to make sure that you have got that oversight, monitoring, governance. You're not leaking any of your data. You're not putting yourself at risk. Yes, you could be standing up an AI agent, but is this agent helping things or increasing that risk? So what's ideal for AI agents? Like in my example with document processing, what's ideal to pass off to an AI agent? High volume repetitive tasks, split-second decision, billing lookups, fraud detection, resetting passwords, excellent. Pattern recognition across large data sets. If you do need something with 24/7 availability and requirements, crafting emails. If you have to talk to millions of customers and you do want that custom email communication for every customer, and you may need to hire a great deal of human employees, maybe that's a good task for AI agents, where one agent writes it, another one validates it, another translates it into French, another one picks it up and maybe deploys it based on certain conditions to your customers. So tasks also with clear rules and boundaries do help. And these types of examples are great for AI agents. Custom email follow-up, document processing, things that are high value, tend to be high volume, repetitive tasks that tend to impact your bottom line. Now, what is good for humans to keep? Right? You're asking, well, where does the human come in? Ambiguous tasks, novel situations requiring judgment, relational, emotionally nuanced interactions, or where you have ethical decisions. Do you actually want that AI agent to figure out who gets a job? You can have an AI agent to sift through the resumes and rank them, but you still want that human, that HR recruitment expert to make that decision who gets the job. And the same goes, who gets selected for a certain program, or who gets that vital surgery. Certain things you do want to have that human in the loop, and you do want to keep with that human, where you have high stakes financial and legal decisions. It's often good to consider that hybrid, I call it hybrid sweet spot, that human in the loop or human on the loop, where agents maybe handle the initial triage and humans manage the escalation. Or you could have an AI agent analyzing your data that human interprets the strategic implications. Or you have a workflow, a routine workflow, and the human oversees the quality and makes those exceptions. Leaders are expecting rapid automation. We are all about give me value right now, immediate ROI. I want to have measurable returns. I want them now. I want them fast. I want seamless adoption, competitive advantage. The problem is a lot of this takes time. You may not always see that immediate ROI. According to Gartner, 49% of leaders highly involved in AI report that their organizations struggle to estimate and demonstrate that value of AI. It is a real challenge. We are plugging it in, and yet we are not seeing the results. So how come? Why many fail with AI? Do you have a clear AI strategy? Are you focusing maybe on the wrong use case? Maybe you're starting with technology instead of that business problem. Maybe you did not invest into that training or that change management. Also, many lack those definitions, that scope and the vision. You need to frame the problem. You need to frame what it is you're trying to achieve. You also need the resources. You don't underestimate the cost. Many are throwing millions of dollars into AI systems, agentic systems, and they are failing to convert that into value. A big problem often is that stakeholder buy-in and risks are just very high. So where this gap? We're sensing this pilot overload. Everybody is trying, experimenting, dozens of proof of concepts. And the problem is these POCs, those pilots, often are disconnected from your business strategy. And the tools might be fragmented across without a unified roadmap. The governance might not be there, or it might be partial. And without the right frameworks or audit trails, especially in regulated industry, you might be stuck from getting your pilot to production because the governance is not in place. Another issue is adoption. Let's say you built something amazing, but the adoption is just not there. You did not work on that change management, and you did not work with the employees. Many assume that data governance is exactly the same like AI governance. Not true. Yes, they are related. You do need good quality data to have good quality AI, but it also requires more than just your data governance. You need to have AI governance, and it's evolving so fast. Oftentimes, risks might outweigh the benefits. And unfortunately, in enterprises, the slow processes don't allow for very rapid prototyping, and the patterns from going from POC to production may not be there. So you need to start with those patterns. Start with the architecture. Unlock patterns to work with PII data or no PII data, to work with documents or to work with other types of data. But you need to establish those patterns, and you need to establish that governance, which is more than just your AI policy and process. The more autonomy you give to AI, the more governance you have to put in place. Organizations that invest in that infrastructure early, they're the ones that are able to deliver here. Autonomy and governance, they do scale together. So what makes for a good governance? This is just at a high level. You should establish your intake process. Similarly to how you would ingest other projects, you do want to assess those use cases, maybe conduct a high-level risk assessment, like that risk tiering, have the right controls in place. Think about vendors. Are you going to be building in a house, using a third party? Maybe you're going to be using an accelerator. The human oversight, what are the controls in there, and the monitoring. You might have monitoring on your solutions to make sure that you're identifying the bias or unexpected behaviors. So from hype to value. A concept we often talk about is fail fast, learn fast, right? I actually like to say, well, you're going to see soon, but it's all about fast prototyping, and you need to make sure that your AI experiments align to that business strategy. And the idea is prototyping fast and being agile. So why projects stall? Well, you often don't have a clear business owner, maybe weak ROI definition, potentially poor data readiness, or no governance pathways, and workflow mismatch. We're actually coming to an end of this talk, so I want to ask if anybody has got any questions or inputs. Please do put them in the chat, and I will try to answer. And I want to talk about the prioritization of your AI projects. You do want to make sure that you are delivering the highest value possible. You do want to also assess that feasibility, right? And ask these factors for success. Engage the business sponsor, make sure you have the data, the business value, the risks, the complexity, and the costs. You want to make sure that you're monitoring, and you optimally want the high value, low complexity, also low risk projects when you're prioritizing. So any questions? So yes, a question came, the gaps, and the gaps that are there, and yes, the biggest gaps for leadership and adoption tends to be quite there. Actually, how about I show you? Okay, here are some use cases. Here are some use cases. Here are some use cases from Gartner, in particular in the banking industry. So where are these use cases fall when it comes to value and feasibility? So the highest value and the likely wins tend to be in the enterprise AI assistants. So these would be your co-pilots, your chatbots, things like a ChatGPT, code generation tools, retail credit underwriting, anti-money laundering, contact center applications, fraud detection. This is kind of your sweet spot. Then you have got still high value next best action type. And here at the bottom, you have got other type of use cases. And the classics, such as customer segmentation, churn, risk management. So yes, do put in your questions. How are companies, so a question came in, how are enterprising approaching drafting new policies? Yes, enterprises are creating AI policies right now, and they're putting them into play. And they need to adapt them based on, there's always new tools out there, there's new technology. We have got concerns around shadow AI, approved use in the company of AI. If you're in a financial institution, you might have a policy around, as we call, data and AI model residency and sovereignty. For example, if you're a financial institution in Canada, you may have a requirement where your data is not allowed to leave Canada. That means you might be leveraging large language models hosted in Canada. You also need to make sure you have a good strategy. And you need to align that vision and that scope. And here's a little checklist I have. As you develop your AI strategy, you need to start with the questions: which business unit stakeholders is the strategy most relevant to? What's the timeline? How do you define those AI systems? And essentially, how does your AI strategy align with your business strategy? From my experience, you need to have the AI use cases, which I call your AI portfolio. And you need to establish that AI operating model to achieve success. If you have strong use cases, that means you're trying things, pilot testing things. You have got identified use cases. You also need to be able to operate it and scale it for this to drive value. That's your formula for success. You want to have the stakeholder on board. You need that buy-in. You need that business opportunity, that right use case. You need the right data and tools. The technology needs to be there. You also need to have the capabilities. Right now, even though we have got things like vibe coding and many other tools out there, you still need a couple of experts. You need the data science and AI team, those engineers to help you stand up the capabilities. You might be leveraging a third party or an accelerator or an internal team or a mix of that. And then you need to have that AI-driven action. If you build something in a prototype, but you did not take that action, well, you didn't translate that into business value, right? You also need to make sure that adoption is part of it. That governance and monitoring needs to be overlaid for optimal business results at scale. You want to overcome those barriers with AI adoption, that data readiness. You also want to establish a feedback loop. Your AI strategy, those policies, they need to feed back. You need to keep adapting and make sure they're in line. As AI shapes businesses, you have to make sure that you're adapting. You have got that right governance in place. And when I'm saying monitoring, you need to monitor not just the algorithms and the LMs, you need to monitor the process as well. And does it still add value for optimal business results? So at an organizational level, we are now facing that hybrid human AI team compositions. We are redefining competencies. We are establishing AI operating models and frameworks. So any questions? Any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. There is also this cultural leadership impact and change, the mindset and the trust. A lot of experiments, unfortunately, I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of experiments, they tend to fail because we want that psychological safety. A lot of it is AI going to take over my tasks? Is it going to take over my job? And a lot of resistance comes from, unfortunately, these days inside of companies, from the employees not adapting. Because many are concerned, what's going to happen to me in my job? How is this? If I help teach this AI system, this agentic system, to do a part of my job, what does this mean for me? And even if it saves me, let's say, a couple hours a day, What does this mean for me, for my team? Does this mean today we do this and tomorrow it learns more and takes over more of my tasks? So these are all very valid and important concerns. Some of the guardrails I put on the slide around safety, personally identifiable information, moderation, tools. Do read that fine print. Let's say you work with AWS or Azure, do ask those questions. Don't just assume things. Don't assume how your data is handled. Don't assume how this agentic system operates. Also, you need to make sure that you are building systems that are relevant and making sense. You need to balance the risks and the rewards and prioritize those experiments that bring that strategic business value and that team. So I want to thank everybody. I'm going to leave you with this slide. It is important to consider with AI systems, you need to augment your metrics. So I put together the slide around operational metrics and KPIs, business impact. It's not just how much time do we save or how much in terms of dollars do we drive. You need to look into additional metrics, utilization, task completion, average resolution. How does the system perform? How does this impact downstream? You also need to start looking at things like hallucination or bias, checks, and you need to become more sophisticated with your metrics that you are so don't just say, hey, how much time does this agentic AI system save us? Or that is still value, right? I'll tell you an example. I worked with a company, and the sales team of about 50 individuals started leveraging an AI agentic system that crafts email follow-ups just to help them follow up with their customers. 50 salespeople in that department. And when I talked to them, they said, you know what, Alina, we are saving 2 hours per person every day. And I said, fabulous. 50 employees saving 2 hours every morning crafting emails. But that's not the success, to be honest. The success is the fact that they're able to drive more sales. That particular team was able to deliver an incremental 3 to 6% on the bottom line. So they were able to increase their sales. How were they able to do that? And I asked them, how is this now performing? How are you able to deliver such outstanding result? Because we are talking a huge team in a huge company with millions of dollars, circulating. How is it possible that they were able to put in and establish such a, that's quite a bit of an impact? Because the story here is not, hey, we are saving 2 hours per person and equivalent to so many FTEs. The real story is that we are now able to unlock and free up our time to close more business. Also, because this agentic AI system is helping us produce hyper-personalized content at such a scale that we are actually able to drive more business. We are able to close more deals. And somebody joked and said, you know what, AI systems, they don't take breaks. They don't go on lunch. if somebody goes on vacation, the AI system still crafts the custom email follow-up. And another AI system comes in, kicks in, and they need to translate it to multiple languages because they have got customers across the world. And they told me, you know what? The impact is we had to leverage other teams for translation in the past. Now we are speeding up our custom communication, and we are impacting 3 to 6% of the bottom line, in addition to the hours that we are saving. Because before all of this, we were doing this. So we said fail fast, learn fast. I think you need to win fast and learn fast. I'm going to put the focus on the winning, not on the failing. Okay? You need to make sure we have that AI strategy, the AI portfolio, and the right AI operating model. I wonder how many of us have got a strong operating model. How many of us have got that AI strategy, a winning AI strategy that aligns our business strategy and those AI use cases, and that winning AI operating model? So for final thoughts of the day, AI is a catalyst across every industry. Every industry is now transforming with AI. I myself, I'm a builder. I have built many agentic systems and plugged them across enterprises. And what I'm seeing, the best impact, the value comes when you align that business strategy with your AI strategy. And those organizations that fail to adapt, they do risk being taken over by those companies that are able to transform their enterprises and become more AI-driven. That AI strategy is a continuous journey, not just a one-time plan. Organizations do need to adapt to new trends, new business need, execution, and alignment. So playing it safe is no longer an option. And you can follow me on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me. And I thank everybody who came in to listen. Here is my LinkedIn. I put into the general chat. So thank you everyone.
Can you hear me? Great. All right. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Sorry, I'm still working on the logistics here for setting up. Apologies. Okay. Great. So I have two computers, so I'll be looking around the two screens. So good morning, everybody. My name is Amrita Suresh. I head the enterprise AI and go-to-market innovation at a company called Asana. So I'm based out in San Francisco Bay Area. So I'm very, very excited to be here to share my perspectives and thoughts on the topic that is very near and dear to my heart around how do you take in your AI pilots and scale that to production-grade programs. And the reason I decided to talk about this topic is because, as we all know, AI is so democratized. White coding is becoming so common. There's a lot of cool ideas that's being presented around, look what I hacked. But I think what we are lacking is how do you take in these cool ideas and what constitutes an enterprise-grade production scalable programs. And there's a lot of things that get into this sort of a scaling mode. And there's a lot of gaps that when we look at the pilots and when we start thinking about what does it take for me to scale this, and that's basically what we are here to talk about. In my opinion, this is not a problem around AI, but this is a problem mostly around how we've organized our operating model in an enterprise. So basically what we're going to cover in the next 30 minutes is why pilots fail to scale. How do you start thinking about the culture of ROI and measurement before you even think about writing a scaling strategy? And truly making AI as a part of the workflow, but not yet another tool that is sitting on a side or the periphery. And what I want to do today is to really present a program readiness checklist that's worked in my case. And I've been talking to a lot of leaders. They're sort of starting to think about the same framework. So I'm here to share that with you, which is a practical takeaway that you can put it in your toolkit and start applying it in your day-to-day. Great. With that said, I'm going to go into the next slide. Awesome. I think everybody knows this. There's a lot of studies that's being published around the topic of why pilots fail, why they can't scale to production-grade programs, right? So a recent study by McKinsey said that 92% of enterprises are running AI pilots, and that's a great number. So what happens next? And there's a Gartner study that I picked up which said that only 26% of them scale beyond the pilot phase, right? And these are expensive pilots. There's a cost component, there's a lot of resourcing, time. Organization spends a lot of energy doing these pilots. So if you unpack these numbers a little bit, this is really not a failure on the technology. As I said earlier, this is really an organizational operating model that is not set up in a way that supports this. And there are three patterns that I've been seeing consistently. The first one is really the proof of concept trap. We call this a trap. This is where there's a lot of structural blind spots that a POC does not factor in when you think about a live production grade environment, right? So what is the real infrastructure constraints? How do you think about the compliance requirements? What are the types of multi-motion complexities that may come in your production system? And the organizational dynamics, the change management. There's a lot of factors that's not being thought through when you think about POC in a smaller scale, which is what we call the POC concept trap. The ROI vacuum, that's a real deal because this is a great idea. I think I can hack this. Let's white code it or build something in a small scale versus what does this mean to the enterprise? What needle is it moving? And that's like the ROI culture and the framework that we're talking about here. Quantification of what does this do to the business is a very important factor, which a lot of people don't think, which contributes to failure of the pilot to the production. And infrastructure debt, right? So this is like the plumbing problem because as I mentioned earlier, the pilot is a very small setup. So how do you sort of think about this in a scalable way when you look at this production, look at this in production? So net, the key takeaway here is we all acknowledge this, that a lot of companies are piloting, but there's a clear gap and there's a lot of things that gets filtered out when you start thinking about how do I take this pilot and convert it to a production program? Before we start talking about what are the strategies, the most important framework is around the ROI thinking, because this is where, in my opinion, a lot of change needs to happen. Maybe 2 years from today, if you think about it, AI was a thing, and a lot of people were focused on how do we drive adoption. So adoption was a very important centric metric. Now, I think we are at a stage, there's so much of maturity and so many things that have happened in the journey that adoption now is becoming a vanity metric. So you really got to think about this in different layers when you start thinking about the ROI. So I kind of use a 4-level AI ROI stack where the productivity value / adoption metric could be your very first layer. Yes, that's important, but that's not the only metric. And then we think about the process value and then the organization strategic value. And, that's where you start thinking about what does this do for my business? As I said, most teams think about the productivity value. That's fine. But again, it's very important to move away from that and start thinking about this more broadly. And on the right-hand side, I've sort of quoted an example of how do you start thinking about the vanity metric, whether it's time savings, efficiency gains, cost, which is an important factor, but more towards like the business KPI, right? If you're thinking about AI for go-to-market, like how is an AI program impacting my top line? Or how is it impacting the customer retention rate? Or for marketing, how is it helping me drive more pipeline? So things like that is something that we should start thinking about. And there's a lot of programs that I've been doing, and I've been talking to experts who are doing this, have sort of contributed to real business outcomes. So before we start putting in like a brief of what is the strategy / checklist to start thinking about scaling, the very first step is to really think about how do you sort of build this ROI framework and really identify what success looks like very early on. I think that's a very important factor. So I think this is the crux of the presentation, where you start thinking about what is the operating model. We talked about this not being a technology problem. We talked about this as how do we sort of set ourselves up for success when we start thinking about identifying what are the pilots that needs to really scale as enterprise level programs. I look at this in 5 pillars, and it's all very interconnected. And if there's a gap in one pillar, then I think there's going to be a gap in your program. So it's sort of, it's all stitched together per se. The typical pattern I see is companies invest very, very heavily on pillar 3, which is the technology tools and infrastructure that make AI work. But the pattern again is pillar number 4 and 5 is very lightweight when you think about where the companies are skewing towards. And that is very, very important, because if you start thinking about your strategic intent and alignment, that's where you bring in your executive sponsorship, you make decisions on how much you're going to invest in AI. You talk about what is your North Star goal? What do you want to get out of an AI transformation program within an enterprise? The second one really is around what are like the use cases, what are the areas, where do you start thinking about applying AI first? And the third one is around how do you set up the architecture, tooling, and infrastructure? Governance and decision-making and enablement and workforce planning is sort of an under thought through areas. Typically, enterprises are 1, 2, and 3, right? That's where they operate the most, and 3 being very heavy focus. Governance and decision-making, right? How do you sort of put in your policies and processes of what does a good responsible use of AI look like? What is your experimentation framework? And there's a lot of conversations around, do we buy this? Do we build this? There are purpose-built tools, like consolidation of stack is a real deal. So what is that framework on when you decide to buy versus a build? And AI Council, I'm not sure how many of you all here are in companies that have an active AI council working. Call it any name, council, operating committee, like a group of subject matter experts who are very passionate about making AI work. That's a very important lever for you to, stitch all of these things together. And the 5th pillar is really, really important around how do you sort of build the literacy programs, workforce enablement around AI? And this is not a one and done. You've got to have a continuous campaign that's running for this. How do you start thinking about the role evolution and convergence? A lot of people are talking about, can AI replace human? Partly yes and partly no. So that's where you've got to think about what are the job families you have? What are the types of charter that you have assigned to every job family? How much of that can be AI-fied versus how much of real cognition and judgment is needed? And then the incoming pipeline of people, right? The workforce. How do you start thinking about the roles that you want to evolve into? So what are the types of skills that you want to be hiring for? And how do you sort of source that talent? So net, the operating model that we build for an AI transformation to stick or a pilot to program transition has to be interconnected and has to span across all of these 5 pillars. And again, they're all very interconnected. This cannot be done in a silo. And that is the mistake a lot of companies do, is that they think about this in a very siloed approach without like sort of a more horizontal preview to this. And I have a checklist that I'll show you at the end on how do you sort of take these 5 pillars and make it very tactical so you can have like a scoring rubric framework that you can borrow and start applying. So I'm just going to go a little more deeper into the 5 pillars here. The first one is around the strategic intent and executive alignment, right? So this is where it starts, because when we want to do an AI transformation, it is extremely important, one, to have a centralized vision or a shared vision, if you may. And very important North Star goals and KPIs that you got to set for yourself. And I've just given you an example of how a marketing could potentially start thinking about, a marketing function could start potentially thinking about the AI, right? Executive alignment. So please do find your executive champions. Yes, AI is very democratized and it's very bottoms up sort of a motion, but it can go until a certain extent. It cannot be sort of like an enterprise program if you're not getting the tops down alignment. And business outcomes are really, really important. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's about that maturity stage in the industry where AI is moving away from a vanity metric to start being a true KPI for the business on what outcome it's going to solve for. And super important is the investment portion of it. And this is where an alignment with the CFO or the finance person is going to be critical around how do you start budgeting for this. And when I talk about budget, it's a holistic thought process. It's just not how do you think about tool spend for AI. It's around what are the types of role that you need to make the transformation work, headcount needs, or sort of bringing things together around tooling, people, process, and technology, everything together on what are the types of investment you got to be thinking of. The second pillar we talked about is really around where do you actually start the AI transformation? And that's where we call it from a business capability lens. The first thing here is the opportunity discovery, right? As AI can be everywhere, you can do everything with AI almost. The most important thing here would be where do you start and the why. In order for you to understand that, it's super important to put together like a business capability map around what are your functional areas, what are some of the business capabilities. And if you're very familiar with that, we do different levels of capability mapping around the core capabilities and level 2 and level 3. So once you have that blueprint, you're going to have some sort of a jobs to be done canvas where you think about within this capability, here's what the current state looks like in terms of the value delivery, and then start thinking about what are the friction areas in this value chain or value delivery. And then you've got to have some sort of a rubric or a scoring framework around how much of a pain is it and how frequently is this pain happening, and can AI solve for this? Because at a surface level, AI can solve for everything, but when you truly unpack this, it's probably not a good candidate where you can derive full value from AI. And that's why this opportunity discovery stage of putting in some sort of a heat map or a rubric around why is going to be very important. And that's where you kind of start your genesis of here are the areas and here's why it's important. And time to number one is number two, around ROI identification. I think in my previous couple of slides ago, we talked about this ROI framework and moving away from vanity metric. This is a slightly deeper version of that, where when you look at an area and you identify, this is the area that I want to AI-fy, here is what I'm going to get out of it, and here's the impact and outcome. So sort of tying that at a very micro level would be really important. And we talk about the pilots to program scaling framework, right? This is where you got to start thinking about it like a mini program or a project where you have sort of a time-boxed approach of, I'm going to use this use case and measure this value, and I'm going to time-box this for about a month and a half with certain people. And then I'm going to look back and look at the criteria of how did the pilot scale, what value did it deliver, and then eventually start thinking about like a scaling strategy. And then the value measurement obviously cannot be around like the retrospect. It has to be a continuous process, right? When you think about the AI initiatives in production, we run it like a portfolio where we have regular reviews, where we look at the impact on a very regular basis, not just after we complete the program. So that way it is like more of a continuous ongoing sort of a feedback loop. Pillar 3 and Pillar 4 around the infrastructure and governance. So we talked about the foundational infrastructure model. So when we think about the enterprise-wide AI transformation, there's a lot of standardization we do on the toolings and the models, which a lot of people here, I'm assuming, are familiar with. And we also start thinking about, okay, a maturity assessment is really important for your organization around where you are from an AI transformation standpoint, and how do you sort of go into that agentic sort of a path forward around what architecture you're going to be designing that for. We do a lot around the MCP strategy, role-based access controls, around if you are in, for example, sales, like how do you start thinking about the right tools and permissions for you to be interacting so you can derive a lot of value with a connected ecosystem. And the last one that I'm going to touch upon very briefly here is the enterprise data and context. A lot of the leaders here, I'm sure, are familiar that context is the most important sort of a construct for AI to work. So really investing in data pipelines, a connectivity around your integration ecosystem, and how clean is your data. Especially, I work a lot on the go-to-market side, and when we start thinking about building something for sales, we invest heavily in terms of a dependency for something like an AI program to work, for the data to be clean. The constant feedback that I get is, okay, this is all very cool stuff, so how do I trust the quality of the output? So for that, you got to make sure you have like a decent data structure and clarity and hygiene that you're feeding into your AI model or program for it to really work and gain the confidence of the end user. The fourth pillar that I want to touch upon, which we briefly talked about, is the governance and decision making, and a little bit of unpacking around what the AI council structure looks like, in my opinion, is one, executive sponsor, which ties back to the very first pillar we talked about on having this be tops down. So we do a lot of quarterly sort of a QBR style meetings with the executive leadership team to really showcase the business value of what AI programs are doing in the company. And then obviously for every function, we have our functional leaders who are CMO, CRO, and Chief Customer Officer, and our product leaders. And then I'm responsible for running the program office here, where we have, for the revenue marketing side of things, we have the GTM engineering sort of a role. We have FDEs who are working on other more broader corporate functions and AIification of that. And we have a mini ops team, which sort of pulls all of this together. And I also have product managers. And practitioners are basically your AI council experts or members who are the subject matter experts or domain experts within the functions. And very important to take in their feedback to sort of factor in the framework that we're talking about. Again, if you are a centralized organization that's having the enterprise AI transformation as a charter, you need not be experts in everything. And that's where the relationships that you develop in a pod model, so that's how we operate here, is going to be really important, because you're sourcing the information, intelligence, and the domain knowledge that these experts have to make things work together. And that's why it's super important to have that shared goal at the top, because when you go to these people, the obvious question is what is in it for me? Why do I make this a priority? So having the sort of a shared goal helps build that sort of a pod model where everybody are moving towards one win in the same direction. And a bit around the policies that I want to talk about is, given that AI is just so everywhere and democratized, it's really, really important of publishing the do's and don'ts on what does the responsible use of AI look like. And this is potentially a partnership with the infosecurity team, the legal folks, and the IT folks to pull together what works for your enterprise in terms of the responsible AI usage policy. Of course, some regulated industries are pretty strict on these rules. So again, depending on which industry you operate in, what type of company you belong in, this can differ. And then what we also do is through the AI Council, we activate the experimentation framework around if somebody is interested in trying out a new AI tool, what is it that they should follow? How do they get like a fast track approval? How do they build a hypothesis around what do they want to accomplish? What is the criteria for setting a baseline metric and a metric that they want to see after they run the pilot? And we're pretty strict about this in terms of if you don't have the right governance, we would not be supporting that program. So not trying to police this, but I think having a sort of formalized process, which is going to make life better for everybody and really enable them to do good work, which can add meaningful value. And then a lot of conversations around build and buy, as most of you are aware of here, is when do I buy something versus when do I build something? When do I make a decision on, we have so many tools, when can I turn on the AI capability of the tool and what is the process for that? So we do publish a general guideline around when you start thinking of build and when you start thinking of buy. And that has been really useful. Of course, that is a very general guideline that we publish. Obviously that becomes more customized based on your function, based on your use cases, but at least it's a good conversation starter and helps people to start thinking in a direction. And then we typically bring these conversations to the AI Council where we discuss that. The reason this is important is there's a lot of redundancy and tool sprawl that is also happening with AI. And this sort of helps the conversation and this shared knowledge sort of helps avoid some of those things. Because, for example, there could be somebody in marketing trying to do something and somebody in sales trying to do something. And they're probably trying to buy redundant tools for the same use case. So that's why bringing these pieces together with the right governance and policies will really help avoid these situations. And with the interest of time, I'm going to quickly run through this. Again, enablement and workforce transformation. So there's a lot of roles that are changing, right? The role convergence and evolution is a real thing with AI. So number one is functional enablement, using your champions to really train people on how do the AI find the use cases for the function. The second one is around workforce planning, around looking at your job families, what are the type of roles, and where is the delta when you think about the AI transformation and how these roles need to be evolving, and what are the type of roles that need to be coming in. And number three is around the hiring and talent strategy, around what are the types of role that you got to be looking at. And I've typically found a lot of success in hiring from non-traditional paths. Yes, posting the job on your rec is one important thing, but really tapping into the communities very specifically, and then more around like, how are the builders doing in this community? Is this builder the right person for my team? So that's sort of, I tap into a lot of these pockets, which is not a very traditional path of sourcing new talent to the company. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, this is not a one and done. It has to be a campaign style, which is always on, where the workforce feels that they have all the support to keep up to everything that's going on in terms of the pace of change. And one thing that I really wanted to share with the audience here is the program readiness checklist, right? So the topic that we came in was how do we sort of think about the operating system change for pilots to program transition. So this is the 5 pillars that we talked about, and I have like very specific tactics within the 5 pillars, which is just an example rubric. And it's really, really important for you to start looking at each of the boxes that's here and then scoring or rating yourself. And the scoring guide that I typically use is if it is less than about 12, then there's work for you to do. You're not ready for like a transformation per se. Focus on getting those areas more mature. And then if it's between 12 to sort of 17, there are gaps for you to like really fix. So go after those specific areas. But if you are on the higher range, which is about 18 to 20, you check most of the boxes here, then I think you're ready to scale. You take in the right programs, identify what those are, and then start thinking through how do you make this more enterprise available /GA. And quickly, what do? So when you get in Monday morning at work, run your checklist like now, this week. Define one hard ROI metric per AI use case, which is really, really important. Look at who should be a part of your AI council and put a clear charter for the AI council, because this is not a job that you can do alone. You're going to be the leading person doing this, but you've got to use experts who are the council members. And then start thinking about in the next month or so, if you don't have a team or you're building a team, start thinking about your product manager for AI or an FTE or an engineer on what the job description should look like. So this is like a practical application that you can use with the framework that I showed you earlier and the scorecard, and then start applying that right away. So with that, exactly on time, I would love to stay in touch. Here's my LinkedIn. This is, again, not a technology problem. It is a problem on how we set ourselves up. And everything fails very early. So that's a great indicator for you to start rethinking how you work. And with that, I would love to say thank you for your time and attention. And thank you for inviting me to share my insights here.
Hi, Amrita. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm the next speaker. I guess I'm trying to share my screen. I don't know if there's any questions from the... Can you see my screen up there? Can you hear me? Oh, okay. All right. I'm not seeing... There's a couple of questions in there. Can you read them? Can you hear me, Amrita?
Yes, I can hear you.
There's a question that
yes,
says, do you really think companies should be trying to DIY their AI transformation?
Yes. I mean, again, I would say my answer says it depends, right? In my company, we do the AI transformation internally. So we've put in like frameworks and thinking around how and where and why. So some of the things that I shared is a part of the framework that we've put overarching for the company. And there's another question I'm just looking through. Keeping in mind that most companies fail horribly in their digital transformation despite having teams with deep expertise in everything required for it. Yes, and I think this is where the framework that you set yourself up for. And so again, it's a combination of many things, which basically spans across the pillars I showed, starting from tops down approach around how much of sponsorship you get, how much of agency the transformation team has to leverage the ideas, how much of support you get from the other teams. Yes, there's expertise, but the difference of who succeeds in transformation is who can pull things together. And I do feel like it's slightly different from digital transformation. In my opinion, digital transformation was around more of how do you sort of change the way you work, and there's a lot of enablement and a mindset change. Yes, that's an important one, but also how do you look at things, because this is an operating system change, right? Not just I'm doing X, I'm going to do Y differently, but really rethinking the work. And that is when AI transformations are going to be successful. People are learning through this. I'm not going to say everybody have done everything and that this is like a one shiny object there. It's a process of learning, but what I've seen is there's a lot of quick things that you can try, test, learn, fail quickly, and then be able to change the course. In the company
right.
that I am
Thank you very
in, we've
much.
seen. Oh, great, thank you.
All right. So thank you. I'm taking over for the next presentation. I'm the next speaker here, and my topic is going to be very similar to a lot of people. If you notice the trend in the presentations today, it is everybody is talking that this is not a technology problem. This is a culture problem. This is a challenge that we are facing at the moment with the false promises of marketing happening with the AI. Okay, are we there yet? Yes, we are very much advanced. We are there. We are really excited about the AI, but we lost with GPS because we refuse to follow the instructions from GPS when they say turn right. We say, no, we're going to turn left. It says follow the road. No, I'm going to go through the cliff down. It's going to be a faster path. Okay, so this becomes a very serious issue with a lot of the AI implementations, and I'm experiencing more and more insights from companies, medium to large size as well, serious challenges on the how to implement AI internally. And one of the worst things that's happening, I think, is throwing away the IT culture and technology culture that we have, and putting this randomness and believing that AI will do everything for you. Okay, so AI is not something new. All right, we had it for pattern recognition like 50, 60 years ago. We had the machine learning last 20, 30 years. Okay, this is not a new thing. For example, one of the first presentations today was on the healthcare. IBM Watson Health was many years tried to do in 2011 what AI companies are trying to do with health now. So quite a lot of people, for non-technologists, AI started with LLMs because it made it available to non-programmers and non-technology people. Okay, AI is been there for a long time as a machine learning, as a data analytics, etc., pattern recognition, as long as that. So that's a very important part. First of all, you need to understand that. Secondly, intelligence is a question mark thing. Let me tell you what happened yesterday with my wife. My wife is a organizational development consultant, and she does executive coaching. Many years in Microsoft. She's technologically very available, able, and be able to leverage the technology very well. She's writing a book, and one of the books that she wrote has a chapter called Shooting Star. She's writing this book, and yesterday she came and said the AI is refusing to help me edit this chapter called Shooting Stars. Okay? What is when you hear the word shooting stars written a book by organizational development and a coach, executive coach, all right? What do you understand from shooting stars? That's the contextual thinking. So AI completely refused to help her edit that. Well, when I hear shooting star, I think of this. I mean, you know, it's like we just had a very nice meteor shower recently coming from the comet Halley, and we've seen so many shooting stars happening up in the sky. But the security checks and in the AI system taught this as shooting a movie star. Okay. After conversing with the AI a little bit and explaining to it that shooting star means, you know, a meteor falling over the sky and we see it that way, etc. It goes, oh, I misunderstood. Okay. So this is a very typical area that contextually AI is pretty bad. Okay. One of the things that I really love recently, there's a lot of AI companies. It's called no hallucinations. Believe me, kick them out of your meeting as soon as somebody says no hallucinations. Okay? There's no such a thing as an AI system with no hallucinations. If there's no hallucinations, it means it's a useless piece of code. Okay? Because the way AI works, it's gonna create hallucinations, less and less, and it depends on the type of data you have at the back end of it. There's a startup company I just spoke recently, and they came to me and they said, we have no hallucinations. I'm like, wow, that's very impressive. How did you manage to do that? Even internally, I said, no way. You go, well, look at this data that we have. I go, where's this data coming from? They go, oh, it's from Oracle. So it's a structured data. They go, yes. I'm like, getting answers from a structured data. Of course, I hope you have no hallucinations. Okay. Getting data from non-structured data, that is the challenge. Okay. We've been doing reports for many years with no hallucinations. When you do an Excel data spreadsheet, you expect no hallucinations because the data is very clear. Okay. So you need to be very, very careful on what you are doing and where is this no hallucinations concept comes in, and what is the context of understanding the AI system. Okay. You're going to hear again and again on this AI summit, and every AI summit you go from now on, that everybody is going to warn you saying, be careful. Okay. AI is not the intelligence you're looking for. Every day is getting better. Don't get me wrong, but it's never going to be completely taking over what humans create. So I have some examples. Okay. What do you need to watch out for AI systems? I'm going to make it very simple. Amujad was explaining in the previous presentation, very detailed about it. Okay. Number one, bad data. Okay. Amazon creates a hiring AI system that reads the resumes in advance and evaluates based on the decisions that was made before. And this is 2013, 2014 timeframe. Okay. It turned out that majority of the CVs were male. Okay. And the information and the success was very badly, and they had to pull it out because it was very biased and it was very wrong. And the worst thing about AI is not a query system that you can go, okay, this was the wrong query, let's redo it. So when an AI system is being taught with bad data, you have to throw it away. You have to build a from scratch new AI environment to be able to, with the good data, to be able to correct those problems. Okay. Governance is the most important part of it. Data, who's putting it, where are you using the AI? What kind of a problem you're looking for? And unrealistic expectations of return on investment. Okay. A lot of companies are challenged at the moment. They are making a lot of investments on AI, and they're not seeing the expected results. I was part of Microsoft call center system where they wanted to, any given time, there's approximately 10,000 Microsoft persons on the phone answering customer queries. Okay. Their idea was, hopefully we can get rid of all of them because the AI, generative AI with the voice recognition, etc., will do everything right. Well, it doesn't work that way. Okay. What happened is we have 10,000 people on the call are much more productive, better service, better customer satisfaction than before. But that doesn't mean that you want to get rid of that 10,000 people. This is something that you have to really think, what is your return on investment that's happening? Because a couple of things. Customers do not want to talk to AI. AI is pretty bad, hallucinating, creating wrong expectations, and really solving the wrong problems. So you have to be very, very careful. Don't get me wrong. I love AI and I use it every day. And I am very excited about the AI system. So recently I posted something on the LinkedIn when Microsoft is announcing early retirement for its people. I said, this is like power tool companies are getting rid of the carpenters or getting rid of the tool makers. Okay. Power tools to a carpenter is like similar to artificial intelligence to a technologist. Power tools make good carpenters faster, make amazing stuff. And bad ones more dangerous. And a lot of the people who are not a carpenter wanted to do carpentry, really created monstrous stuff. Okay. This is a very typical thing that you see in there. So you have to be very careful. This is just an analogy about power tools versus artificial intelligence, but it makes really good sense. When you move to power tools, you have to make sure that you are not getting rid of the processes and needs of it. Measure before you cut. You measure twice because you can cut very fast with circular saw, but how much bad cuts you're gonna do. Okay. Similar in AI, verify before production. You have to verify before production, human reviews, test approve behavior, edge cases. One of the things that I love, to give you a little bit of a example, I don't know if you've seen, Waymos are amazing, driverless taxi cars that's going around in a lot of cities. They just start testing it in Seattle, where I am from. I use them in San Francisco and Los Angeles. They're going around very successfully till there was a small accident. Police put some flares on the road and 3 Waymos just stuck there. Can't move because they don't want to go over the flares, which normally a car could go, okay? And they completely blocked the whole intersection for several hours because they wouldn't move. They're expecting things to move around, etc. So when you are doing stuff, you have to really check, measure twice before you cut it, verify before production, okay? So this becomes a very good rule of thumb that you're going to use, right? When you're using power tools, okay, use the right tool for the right stuff. Don't use chainsaw for fine carpentry, okay? People don't build nice stuff with chainsaws. AI, low-risk tasks, boilerplate, scaffolding, creating websites, creating images, all right? When there's a critical path, especially a very specific to your business, a specific to your value add to customers, you need to do a manual design and explicit review. Still use AI to cross-check it, but don't let AI to build something like that. It's quite interesting. I do work very closely with startups. One of the startups, and they are not a, they're just a tech, like a service startup, and they go, "Oh, we are so happy that we could leverage AI to build the system without any developers." I'm like, okay, so what's your background? One of them says it's real estate. The other one, he goes, I learned very quickly to, code the systems with AI and create the site and create the whole workflow with AI only. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It's really, you need to respect the expertise that an IT person brings into a system like that. No, it works really well. It took me 5 minutes to break the system because they knew nothing about it. It looked like it worked till you turn and throw a curveball. Okay, I didn't even do anything serious about the security, etc. It was just like two things I did, took through a couple of extreme cases, and the whole system collapsed. Okay, this is a typical delusion that people think that they can throw away their systems. The other thing with the power tools, wear safety gear. Yes, you could be doing AI generated code, but you need to be able to create guardrails. Okay, so there's a lot of systems out there who created with AI, and there were secret leakage. One of them was interesting, and it was one of the silicon companies who are building a chip. They wanted to do a control check with AI, ChatGPT, on the code that exists on the silicon itself, and it leaked out. And it actually allowed other people to be able to submit vulnerable code into their systems. There's also legal risks. There's a lot of areas that is happening. Okay, obviously financial risks that goes with it. So you need to be able to have AI with guardrails. You need to be able to create guardrails. Okay, just because AI sounds and promises to be very intelligent and careful, trust me, it's not. Okay. A couple of years ago, I did this presentation in the summit. A very quick check. If you go any of your AI systems and ask for a collage of watches that shows noon. Okay. Simple instruction. If you have AI now in front of you, ask it. okay, you're going to see a bunch of watches that shows 10 past 10 instead of noon. And AI is very convinced that these are the watches that shows noon, okay? Because what's available out there for watches is the commercial pictures. And commercial pictures of watches is always 10 past 10 because visually that's the best looking one, okay? If you go a couple of years ago onto my presentation, you're going to see that. And the important thing is there, can you make AI to fix that problem? Yeah, no problem. I can do it in a very short period of time. The example is trying to show you that you don't know what AI doesn't know, or where is that data is coming from, okay? So you have to cross-check and make sure that everything is put in place. So be careful. Data problem, that's the number one big issue. There's a law firm in California that went bankrupt because their AI system created a made-up stories about cases and leveraged that in front of a judge. And judge is like push back and put that company all together because the data was not correct. Reality gap, okay? It's an amazing tool. It's a great tool. It makes you faster. It makes you go do things much faster, much better than everything else. But that doesn't mean that you throw away your processes, your thinking, your areas, okay? Guardrails. If there's no guardrails, you're in big trouble. You have to put guardrails in there. Misaligned incentives, okay? Don't assume that the data and etc. that the users are putting are correct. And least but not last thing, ignoring human workflow. Will people actually gonna use this thing? Okay. And you really need people to cross-check the results and what's happening out there. Is a big hype that AI is going to replace all the roles. That's not the correct approach. We are going to find it in a very short period of time. With that, let's continue our discussion on my LinkedIn account. Feel free to connect it there. So there's one more question that's coming in. Feel free to type in. It says, do you think companies should be still be trying DIY their AI transformation? It depends on the maturity of your IT organization. Okay, don't do AI transformation without your IT organization, because don't forget, this is still a technology. This is still a data problem. This is still a practice that needs to be continued to have all these things in detail. It's a process that you need to follow. You cannot just go in there and do it your own. Don't fall into this trap. I mean, large companies, enterprises don't usually do that, but small to medium organizations, they do. Okay. Don't forget, a lot of the data that we have at the moment is problematic. Okay. You cannot just open up your data to AI systems because that causes a lot of problems. You need governance over it. Okay. So again, it depends as the question. And Christopher is here, I think is joining in. So,
yes, I had to step away for a little bit, but Murat, I caught the back end of your presentation. Was really great. Thank you.
Free to type in or connect me on LinkedIn, Murat Ozturan.
All right, and we encourage everybody to please reach out to Murat on LinkedIn. And any questions? I know we have to move on to time. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Are we all set? Yep. Okay, great. All right, everybody. We encourage everybody again, please reach out to Murad. He did an excellent job with the presentation. We just got to keep on track. We want to make sure we get everybody out on time. And we're going to be talking about here today about next up on experience-led AI, why enterprise AI fails and how ecosystem architecture fixes it. And some of the key points that we're going to be covering in this one is why traditional chat-first AI strategies fail to drive meaningful outcomes, how multimodal AI, voice, visual, and telemetry changes problem resolution dynamics, and more. And we're going to be here with Ankit Talwar, and he is the Director of Project Management for AI at Dell Technologies. And he has led the product strategy for digital supply chain transformation documented by researchers at MIT. That is through their digital supply chain case study, Dell Roadmap of Digital Supply Chain Transformation, case number W24797. And he directed the Stride Service AI ecosystem recognized with the TSIA Star Award AI Innovation in 2025. His experience-led AI framework synthesizes principles from these programs across 8 years between 2017 and 2025 and has been presented across multiple industry forums and executive gatherings focused on enterprise AI and customer experience transformation. I could keep going on and on, but Ankit, the floor is yours, and we look forward to you sharing with us here today.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Hey Chris, can you hear me?
Yes,
okay,
I can hear you.
I don't know, for some odd reason I'm getting a lot of lag, but if you can hear me properly, I think it's good.
Yes, we can.
Excited to be here.
Okay, the stage is all yours.
Okay, give me a minute. I'm trying to go live. Okay. Trying to share my screen. Let me know if you can see the screen. Can you guys see it? Okay, perfect. Hi, so super excited to be here. I am Ankit. I lead product management AI at Dell. I am also mentoring a lot of early stage startups with Antler VC, MIT Hack Nation, and Founder Institute. So what I'm going to talk about today is based on my experiences, both on the enterprise side and working with cutting edge startups on the AI side. And the topic that I have is that there's a lot of hype on AI. There's a lot of hype on agentic AI. And I've been working in this space for the last 10 years before AI was called AI. It started with ML, machine learning, natural language processing, and now it's called AI and agentic AI. In my experience, how does it work? And what are the things that we need to take into account when we think about this agentic AI implementation? The topic that is very close to my heart is experience-led AI. So I'm going to talk about that today and would love to get some inputs from the audience, what they feel about it. Okay, so one of the things that I'm going to start with is that we have heard a lot of statistics on AI. And one of the ones that caught my attention is at the top that says 40% of the agentic AI projects will be canceled by 2027. And it says very clearly the failure is in the foundation models. It's actually going to be in an architecture. And I agree with that statement because a lot of times what you would see is when we start implementing AI, it's a kind of a bolt-on strategy. We have our legacy tools, we have our legacy systems, and we are trying to put AI on top of it, while we have not taken a step back and thinking about our end-to-end ecosystem and saying that, okay, how do we redesign the systems for AI. So what you see on the left is a lot of silos tools which don't talk to each other, don't have a shared data foundation. They were constructed in the past based on how they were serving a very minute outcome for the customer, but was not connected from an end-to-end journey. But if you really have to take a step forward and get into an agentic motion, you have to think about this ecosystem end to end, wherein you have in the middle is the AI layer, wherein you do the diagnostics to understand what the problem is. You guide the agents to make sure they understand, okay, this is how you solve the problem. And then the agentic part of it is where the agents actually take the action on the behalf of humans and make this end-to-end journey possible. To make it happen, the other thing you need to have is a shared data foundation. And the most key important thing is to have a closed loop feedback loop so that these systems are learning in itself. And it's not like if something goes wrong, it takes a lot of time for models to improve. So I'm going to spend a lot of time on this ecosystem architecture and how this is important from an experience-led design and how this is going to be super critical as we go into AI models, deploying AI models, either at the enterprise level or at a startup. If you have a startup that you're working on, um, we need to rethink our architecture in the agentic mode, and this will help a lot. So if you have to think about from an experience-led AI framework, and I write a lot on this, is first you need to take a step back. What you need to start with is the customer journey. So you need to define what experiences you're trying to achieve, what's the problem the customer has, and let's just map it down. And I'll give you an example or one of the scenarios that we are working on. Once you have defined the whole resolution experience, then you need to go and do a very strong audit of your data. You need to figure out what are the data that is currently available to achieve that outcomes. Is it there? Is it not? Is the data fragmented or siloed? Or is there a shared data foundation that can feed all your data models? The third one that you need to do is look from a closed loop AI engine. So the AI engine 1 has to talk to the AI engine 2 and AI engine 3, and then measure the success. And when I say measure the success, you have to measure it at the ecosystem level, not at the specific tools level. So what we see in today is a lot of people, a lot of leaders will say, where can I deploy AI or what AI can do for me? I think the right question to ask is what resolution experience must we deliver? What is the end customer asking? And how do I enable my AI to help me with that? So that will help us a lot from going from when Gartner says that, hey, 40% to, and there are different reports wherein they go to 60 and 70% of the agentic AI things will fail. What we really need to understand is go back to the drawing board from an experience-led design, understand from customer experiences, and then kind of define our AI framework. This is something that Steve Jobs used to talk a lot about it, like, hey, I don't want technology to be bolt on and be a solution to the problem that I don't know. So we need to start with the problem and then come back to the solution and say that, okay, is AI the right solution? And sometimes, honestly, the good old technology is good enough. You don't even need AI. So what we need to do is lead with this experience, the end customer, and then go back and talk about how we can um, figure out how the AI technology framework works. So I'll give you an example. I think when we talk about end-to-end experiences, what it really means. I work at Dell Technologies, so I'll take a experience of a laptop. A lot of times when you are kind of your laptop is not working, the only thing you really want is to make sure that the laptop starts working again because your life depends on it. Either you're working on it or you're basically working on a personal project. You want to make sure that it starts working again because now there's a disruption in the workload that you had. So there are multiple experiences you can map it out from an end-to-end journey that the customer is going through, and then deploy your AI solutions. The first would be instant self-resolution, which is more like, hey, I'm searching on the website. I don't know how to reset my password. You get the information and you get done through it. The other one would be guided first contact resolutions, wherein the agent, it's telling you, in this case, an AI agent, is understanding the problem. Hey, I want to understand, I ordered a part, I don't know where it is, and it gets resolved in one call, right? There is also the magical experience, proactive prevention, wherein what we do it is we look at the information that is there available in the laptop or telemetry and say that, hey, I think this thing is falling apart. Before the customer reaches out to me, I can just reach out and kind of give it and help the customer out. That is more of a proactive prevention. And then you have complex escalation wherein there are some issues that cannot be solved by an AI agent right now because it is very complex. You need to have the context. How do you enable that? The AI agents try to solve it. If they can't solve it, they transfer it to a human agent. And then the human agents has all the context so that you don't need to explain that again. And the final one is the post-learning resolution, wherein you go through the entire journey and see what an AI agents can do better. The same way we do it for humans, right? When we are doing some project, we basically go through the cycle and then say, okay, what did I did right? What did I do wrong? From a start, stop, continue, and then go about it. So those are the 5 experiences. I've just given an example of how it can work in a contact center, which can roughly covers 80% of the volume. But any AI project that you're doing, I would start with the whole customer journey, map out what are the key moments that really matter for the customer, and then figure out if I have to enable these outcomes, how do I do that? This will help a lot for you to understand the pain points what the customer is having, and then deploy your AI solution, proactive AI solution that you want to do. And at the bottom, you should also have is this shared data foundations that I talked about, because a lot of times if you don't have a canonical data model which is common across all, what's going to happen is that one AI engine will not talk to another AI engine, and then this will result in fragmentation and a very fragmented experience for the end customer. And this is another example wherein I'm going to talk about the different AI engines taking the customer care experience again into this. A lot of times when we are working on a laptop, you would hear that the fan is moving really fast. How the proactive AI works in this case is that you get the telemetry from the information from the AI agent is looking at it, his understanding. Wait, the hard drive is moving really fast. Let me check all the drivers. If the drivers are failing, let me see if we need to replace the hard drive, and guide the AI agent to first check all the policies and then do the action. This is um, in this case becomes a whole agentic AI experience wherein the customer didn't even know what was happening. Customer said that all I knew was that, hey, my hard drive is moving too, or basically the fan is moving too fast, and I'm hearing a lot of noise. But the system is able to test itself, figure out what it is wrong, and help the customer out without even human coming into the picture. So that's an example wherein you can do agentic AI, but you need to map it back to the end experience that you're trying to achieve, and then come back and say, okay, this is how I'm going to solve it for the end customer. Now, the other thing I would spend a lot of time is figuring out the ecosystem matrix rather than the matrix for the individual AI tools. A lot of times I look at is the learning velocity. Is once you have deployed, which is the number 3 on the slide, is once I've deployed an AI solution, how fast it is solving the problem that I intended it to, and is the problem coming up again? Um, as I feed in more context, is the system getting smarter or not? The other one is very critical, and a lot of people don't think about it, is the ecosystem leverage ratio. This is where we see that if I invest $1 in one AI capability, what's the corresponding or the adjacent capability that can improve? That helps us to enable whether the whole ecosystem is working together, and you're looking at the end customer and making sure the end customer problems are being resolved, and there is a resolution on that. Lastly, I think a lot of leaders would talk about there's a lot of um, fear in the system. And you would hear a lot of leaders talking about it. Okay, I trust AI, but I don't trust AI. How do I make sure that the systems that I am deploying are trustworthy? And the answer is not that simple, right? I mean, the analogy that I give to everybody is like AI is like a kid. Once you have a kid, you need to teach them things, you need to teach them concept, but there has to be a guardrails that enables you to make sure you take the control, which in this case is human on the loop or human in the loop, when things are going wrong. And the way I think about it is, and I've written an article on this, is the first is the structural integrity. Whenever you're deploying an AI solution, an AI agent in an enterprise environment or in your startup, you need to have a layer of circuit breakers. What the circuit breakers really do it is if the system gets an anomaly, they really break down and actually push the human to take the decision. So, for example, if let's say there was a big software update that Microsoft did, and that is resulting in a lot of issues, the AI agent would not try to solve it because AI agent might not have that information in the knowledge base, and a human might have to do that research before AI chatbots tries to solve it. Because if an AI chatbot tries to solve it, it might have an older information and might push and solve the wrong problem for the customer. So you always need to have circuit breakers. The second thing I always put in all our AI systems is semantic correctness, which is reasoning consistency with evidence. So you always double check what AI is doing. You have the ground truth, and you make sure the way you think about your kids, you always check your homework. You need to ensure is that, hey, if the agent is saying X, what is the evidence I am getting um, from other systems to say whether the agent is giving me the right recommendation? I would basically take an example. A lot of times when Microsoft is a good example. Microsoft always asks you for telemetry, like they say that, hey, I want to send the data to Microsoft to improve their products. The reason why they're doing it is to understand more about your usage and train their AI systems. The reason for that is if they get data from you which is incoherent to what the AI agent is telling, they will try to train their models. And that is the semantic correctness or the evidence. It's like a detective. You're trying to collect evidence and seeing does it matches my AI agent recommendation, and if it is not, I need to fix my system. The third one, I've not seen that often, but is very important from a pyramid of trust so that we can trust the AI agent is the outcome verification. We need to make sure that we reward our AI agents the same way we reward humans. If an issue was supposed to be resolved by an AI agent and it is not, or the work that you were planning to do is not, you actually ding the agent. So there is a reward function that you can create that can say that, hey, I told you to do this, but the problem still exists in 7 days. So I'm going to ding you for that. And that way, it becomes a reinforcement learning function for the agent to make sure that they are understanding that, okay, I did a bad job. The same way you do it for a kid. Hey, today you didn't complete your homework, so I'm going to ding some marks for you. Similarly, as you think about your AI agents and you're deploying them, think about how you're going to do outcome verification. How do you going to make sure that the agent is proposing the fix and it is able to do that? And lastly, I think this is the blueprint. I'll leave it everybody with you is if you go back and think about how you're going to deploy your AI agents, first, I would start with the end-to-end experience, the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. Then go and talk about the data foundation. What is the data layer that you want to talk about? Make sure that it is very clear, your data structure, the ontology is very clean so that everybody understands and all AI agents can tap into the shared context layer and are able to change information with this. A classic example would be um, I think OpenAI started with this was this whole memory integration wherein they started learning more about you. Now, everybody has done it. Claude has done this and everything. But that foundation layer, the memory helped us a lot to agents to become much smarter. They were able to personalize better. And it was because of the foundation. A lot of times you would have seen in OpenAI and Claude where they say AI can make mistakes, but give us feedback. That is basically closing the loop. How do you design a capability and then get feedback from the humans or the customers who are using your products to say that, hey, was I able to solve your problem? If not, let me do that. And institute a governance and guardrails in your agent. So if something goes wrong, as I talked about the pyramid of trust, you can do a circuit breaker pass it to a human can review the progress and kind of make a decision, because there is a lot of work that humans will have to do from a judgment perspective, and AI breaks down, and AI will break down. And the final thing I would say is that measure the ecosystem would be the 5 things that you should think about as you kind of deploy your AI solutions into either the enterprise environment or in a startup, as if you're working on a project, as you deploy it. At the end, I would basically leave you with a quote, which says that the organization that win with AI won't deploy the most tools. They will build the ecosystem where each capability compounds the value of every other. So think about it from an ecosystem experience perspective, and how you know you can compound. This is the same way Warren Buffett talks about compounding, right? Each investment he does is a part of a bigger ecosystem that he's trying to construct for himself. And there is a compounding effect wherein each the investment one is helping investment two, and they're talking to each other, have the shared context, and have the compounding impact on the wealth. With this, I'll stop. Can you guys can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty excited about AI, agentic AI. This is a very cutting edge stuff. And I would love to exchange notes and connect with you guys on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is there, and you can. We're happy to connect with everybody. Excited to be part of this.
I thank you for a wonderful presentation. I know you have a hard stop, but if you have like a minute or two for a question, if there is, okay. If anybody would like to, send a question, I know that's something when you began to talk, somebody said IT organizations are not in position to help much with AI transformation. It wasn't a question, just somebody just made a comment. They can deploy licenses like champs, though. Is there any questions that anybody has for Ankit? Because he does have a hard stop, and this is a great opportunity to get these addressed right now. And we're going to check LinkedIn as well. So we're going to see if we got, so anybody who has a question that we'd like to share. Let's see here. And again, everybody, you do have Ankit's contact information, but hey, this is a great time to ask this question before he goes. Anybody have a question? Let me check to see if we got any LinkedIn. No. Okay. All right. So Ankit, well, if a question does come in, would you mind doing a 30-second or less just testimonial about your experience sharing your presentation on the platform today? Zoolatech would love to have your feedback.
No, it was good. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a wonderful experience. I also liked and I was going through it live. There was this networking function wherein you can look at other people who are attending the event and you can talk through it. So I really liked it. I also liked walking through this. Happy to connect later on any questions. I think on the IT one, my statement is that what I have seen is a little different. Everybody's excited about AI because what's happening is that if you're not in it, you're basically will not be competitive. So I've seen IT teams is helping out with a lot of, I would say, onboarding. There are obviously product teams who are creating the AI agentic solutions, but IT is your partner who's going to, and you need to have that partner to scale it up to make sure it is enterprise ready. So I would always have your IT friends ready with you.
There is a question that came in, Ankit, just real quick. Says, what is the biggest problem you're seeing in AI transformation at Dell or at any other companies?
So I'll make it generic. I think the one that I'm seeing a lot is, and this I do a lot of startups also, right? And I'm talking to a lot of customers also outside Dell, based on my experience in AI. The biggest problem I see is that there is a lot of negative connotation on AI, especially that AI is going to take my job. AI is going to basically take all our jobs away. So can I trust AI to train the AI right now? Because I know it's going to take my job. It's a tricky one. I think I understand the human part of it. What I honestly feel like is AI is going to be the same technology revolution as we have seen it in the past. I was reading this quote the other day wherein there was like, before the whole farming infrastructure came in, everybody was a farmer, right? That's the only occupation we had. Everybody used to farm because we got to eat. That's it, right? At the end of the day, that's the that's the most foundation thing. But things change as we basically got the whole farming infrastructure. We got the tractors. We got a lot of things that could help us out with farming, and gradually only 2% roughly. And my numbers might be wrong, but very few people are farmers right now. But there are a lot more jobs that have been created because of the um, expansion of internet, because of the expansion of computer. What I feel like is AI is going to be the same thing. But what we really, when we say, can I trust AI? My answer is that treat them as kids. They still need to nurture, they still need to grow. When they grow up, you're going to get old and you're going to do different things. Just don't be scared. That might be good. Like, there are a lot of repetitive tasks that I hate doing it. And when AI does it, and I was like, thank you, you saved my day. So I think for me, the biggest challenge is the psychological challenge where people need to get over that hump. And hopefully we can see more of people saying, hey, I trust AI doing these high volume repetitive tasks that I don't want to do. But here is the high value work that I can do. So let me train the AI. Let me basically make sure, take the repetitive task off my job. Do that.
Great. And one more just came in. If you do have
Yeah.
time, I do understand if you don't, but it says, what is the biggest problem? If you had to go, let us know. But what is the
Yeah.
biggest problem you see executives making, CEOs especially?
Say that one more time. It broke on me.
What is the biggest problem you see executives making, CEOs especially, I guess, when it comes to AI?
I think with it's not with AI, it's with every technology. What I have seen it is, obviously at the top there is a lot of pressure on the ROI, and I think what we really need to do is measure the ROI correctly. There are a lot of places we are not thinking how AI is benefiting, so we need to kind of tell the holistic story. Um, when we are looking at results. And I would say that that is something that Dell does a really good job of looking at ROIs and how do we do our AI investments. But I have not seen that much kind of rigor outside.
Great. Hope everybody got their questions answered. Ankit, I want to thank you so much for taking time to be with us here today and sharing your insights. I know you have a hard stop, and want to thank you again. And we encourage everyone to reach out to him on LinkedIn and to continue that conversation. And if you have any questions that come up later for Ankit, just again, reach out on LinkedIn to him. Thank you, Ankit. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. We hope everybody today received a lot of value. We want to thank you for everyone's patience on the Click Meeting platform today. As we do it, like in technology, we got to adapt, right? That's all about what business and technology is about. It's about adapting. So we want to thank everybody. So we hope everyone received value. So what I like to see in the chat box is to see on a scale 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, that you feel that you got, really good information that can help you where you're at, in what you do in this space, in terms of the content that you hear today. Let's see if we can see that in the chat box. If you feel like you got really good value, and what are some things that we could do, we can improve upon for the next time. So this way that, again, when we have the next summit, we're going to be able to adapt to what's important to all of you, because when it's all said and done, it's you, the attendee, you being here. That's the most important. That's why we want to bring content that helps move you forward in your business. Anybody like to share? And I'll see if anything comes in. Could be like just you got value, you felt good, anything we can improve upon. Got an 8, good. So we've got a rating system, 8, love it, good. Use a different platform next time, Zoom events, for instance. Okay, great. We can definitely look at that. Thank you for that. All right. Well, I think unless I see anything else come in, I want to personally thank each and every one of you for being here today, taking time out of your day, no matter where you are, even evening, wherever you are, to be with us. Again, this is why these summits are put on, because of you, and it's about serving the industry And it's your input that helps us now to help, you come up with better summits in the future that are going to adhere and align to where you are and where you desire to be. We encourage everyone, again, to check out the event on LinkedIn, make some comments, reach out to the speakers that you heard from today. Ask questions there too as well. Get to know them. This is an opportunity that how we build a community around everything that Zoolatech represents, because that's what Zoolatech is about. It's about giving back, giving without expectation, so we can all receive without resistance and repeat that process. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing all of you on the next summit. And we will take your feedback into consideration for the next summit and what we can be doing better to serve you to the next level. Take care, everybody.